Chapter 278. Zhou Jini picked up the bowl of medicine and sat on the edge of the bed. She held Shi Fengming's chin tightly with one hand and poured the medicine into his mouth with the other. Shi Fengming had never been treated like this before. He was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. He glared at Zhou Jini. "You evil woman, how dare you? How dare you treat me like this? I'll teach you a lesson." "Second young master, it's better for you to recover from your illness first," Zhou Jini said gently. "It seems that this medicine is quite effective. Second young master, after taking the medicine for a few days, you've become much more energetic and strong." Shi Fengming was shocked and subconsciously stopped struggling. However, Zhou Jini used her hand to force his mouth open and poured the medicine down his throat. A strong sense of bitterness attacked him. Shi Fengming frowned and opened his mouth to shout, but the medicine flowed down his throat even faster. Shi Fengming swallowed involuntarily. Just like that, Zhou Jini poured the entire bowl of medicine down his throat. "All right." Zhou Jini gently let go of him and gestured for Xiao Cui to leave. She smiled slightly and said, "Second young master, after taking the medicine, you'll definitely recover very quickly." Looking at the flustered and exasperated Shi Fengming, Zhou Jini felt a sense of satisfaction and relief that she had never felt before. Although he glared at her like a knife, wishing that he could cut her into pieces. "You evil woman! How dare you?" Shi Fengming was flustered and exasperated. "Water, quickly get me some water to rinse my mouth." Zhou Jini gently placed the bowl of medicine on the table and said indifferently, "Second young master, since you've called me an evil woman, why are you still ordering me around? I'll go back first. I'll ask Xiao Cui to bring you some water." Zhou Jini turned around and left. Shi Fengming was stunned. He stared in shock at her leaving figure and felt a deep sense of disharmony in his heart. Wasn't this woman always as gentle as water in front of him? Why did she suddenly seem like a different person? She actually dared to use force on him. She even dared to not respect him. How preposterous. Shi Fengming wished he could jump off the bed and chase after her to settle the score with her. However, thinking of his current role, he could only grumble and give up. The bitter taste in his mouth. He frowned and shouted, "Xiao Cui! Xiao Cui!" At night, Zhou Jini came again. Shi Fengming was full of resentment and was even more unwilling to see her. He closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. Zhou Jini saw that the muscles on his cheeks were stiff and his eyelashes were fluttering from time to time, but she didn't expose him. She instructed Xiao Cui and Nanny Yu to stand guard outside before leaving. The two elders of the Zhou family had originally planned to come over the next day, but who would have thought that they would be held back by another matter? They could only send the young master of the Zhou family, the housekeeper, and the proper nannies of the inner residence over to take a look at the situation first. In a few days, the two elders would come again. Seeing that the person who came was a young master from the Zhou family, it was obvious that the matter of the divorce could not be discussed with him. Even if she did, he would not dare to make the decision. Second old mistress Shi was a little disappointed and revealed her family's intentions to young Master Zhou, telling him to go back and tell his parents. She did not keep him any longer and told him to take a look at Bailuo Pavilion before returning. Just like his parents, young Master Zhou loved his sister dearly. He also disliked his brother-in-law who made the Zhou family lose face and his sister suffer grievances. When he heard that Madame Zhou's intention was to take pity on his sister and was willing to let her return home with dignity, he couldn't help but feel secretly happy. He was originally unwilling to visit Shi Fengming, but at this moment, he went over willingly. Shi Fengming was living in an abyss of suffering. After Zhou Jini heard Shi Fengju's words, she felt that it was quite effective and Bailuo Pavilion became her world. Especially when it came to the matter of drinking medicine. She refused to budge an inch. Shi Fengming was so angry that his eyes were about to spit fire, but there was nothing he could do about her. He was still a weak patient and couldn't possibly jump up and go against her. Instead, he had to carefully hide his intentions, afraid that he would accidentally expose himself and fail at the last step. No matter what he said, Zhou Jini refused to budge. She directly said, "We'll talk about it when you're better," and retorted. Shi Fengming was so angry that he shouted, "Then what if I die? If I die, Will you be willing to leave the Sher family obediently? Zhou Jingyi's expression changed slightly when she heard this, but it was only for a moment before she said, "Don't talk nonsense, I won't die. If that day really comes, you won't have to worry about my whereabouts, right?" Seeing his expression turn extremely ugly, Zhou Jingyi hurriedly said, "Don't worry, I won't bring shame to the Sher family. I'll definitely protect you for the rest of my life. In a few years, when big brother and sister-in-law have more children, I'll ask father and mother to make the decision to adopt one of them to inherit your lineage." She really thought far ahead. Shi Fengming felt that he couldn't even vent his anger. In the blink of an eye, it was noon and time to drink the medicine. Seeing Shi Fengming's vigilant gaze, Zhou Jingyi smiled slightly and sighed. "Won't it be better for everyone if you drink the medicine properly? Why bother? Why did she have to make it so ugly?" Shi Fengming glared at her hatefully, but he knew that she was right. There were plenty of medicine anyway, how many bowls could he smash? He might as well drink it to his heart's content. Lest this woman summon the maidservants to join in the fray. He didn't know where to put his master's face. "Give it to me." Shi Fengming took the medicine with a cold face and drank it all in one go. Zhou Jingyi was already holding a cup of tea to rinse his mouth. Seeing that he had finished drinking, she hurriedly handed the cup of tea over and took the bowl of medicine. He raised his eyes and saw her slightly smiling face, seemingly very pleased. Shi Fengming suddenly felt very indignant and unhappy. He scolded angrily, "You vicious woman! Vicious woman! You have such a vicious heart." Although it had only been less than 2 days, his scolding became more and more fluent. Zhou Jingyi was already used to it and didn't care at all. But even if she didn't care, someone else cared for her. Master Zhou, who had just walked out of the room, was furious when he heard these words. He took a few steps forward and kicked the door open. He glared coldly at Shi Fengming and shouted, "Bastard, who are you calling a vicious woman and a vicious woman?" Shi Fengming almost couldn't recognize who Master Zhou was. Only when he heard Zhou Jingyi call out in surprise, "Brother!" did he know that he was his brother-in-law. How could he swallow his anger and admit it when he was scolded? He even hoped that the Zhou family would make a fuss. The bigger the fuss, the better. He glared back and sneered. "Do you see a third person in this room? I've never seen such an uncultured woman. Your Zhou family raised such a good person. Preposterous. Bastard. Bastard. If I don't teach you a lesson today, my surname is not Zhou." Master Zhou was so angry that his body trembled. He raised his hand and punched Shi Fengming's face. "Big brother. Don't." Zhou Jingyi was stunned. She instinctively tried to block the punch. She screamed as the punch landed on her cheek. She couldn't help but fall onto the bed. Although this punch didn't land, Master Zhou used a lot of strength in his anger. Zhou Jingyi was in so much pain that tears came out of her eyes. The corner of her mouth and cheek were burning with pain. She didn't need to look to know that it would be swollen. The two men were stunned. Master Zhou was in disbelief, and Shi Fengming was even more in disbelief. Are you crazy? He treated you like this and you're still protecting him. He's already scolding our Zhou family. Didn't you hear? Get out of my way. I'll beat this bastard who can't tell right from wrong." Master Zhou's heart ached. He was even more exasperated. He reached out and pushed Zhou Jingyi to the side. "Big brother! Big brother!" Zhou Jingyi's tears streamed down. She struggled and cried, "Big brother, he didn't mean it. Big brother, don't be angry, okay? He's sick now. You can't hit him. Big brother, if you're angry, just blame it on me. It's all my fault. I've caused big brother and father and mother to suffer." Zhou Jingyi cried and begged. "No," Master Zhou said angrily. "I can't take this lying down. Get out of my way. His stinky mouth needs to be taught a lesson. If you're still my sister, or still a member of the Zhou family, then get out of my way. You've already been humiliated to this extent, and you still want to endure it. If father and mother know about this, they'll be heartbroken. Get out of my way." "Big brother." Zhou Jingyi knelt down in desperation. She pulled on his clothes and cried, "Please don't. Don't be so calculative with him, okay? He's sick, he can't take it. He's just frustrated. He definitely didn't mean it. Don't be so calculative, okay? Big brother." Master Zhou was so angry that he couldn't speak. He looked at his sister who was crying in front of him, then looked at the silent one on the bed. He was also angry. He stomped his feet and said, forget it, forget it. You can do whatever you want with your own matters. I don't care anymore." After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and pulled back his clothes. He turned around and left angrily. Zhou Jingyi looked at his back. Her lips moved, but she didn't say anything. She took out her handkerchief and wiped her tears. She stood up from the ground and looked at Shi Fengming, who was lying on the bed. Shi Fengming subconsciously avoided her gaze. He suddenly felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. This feeling made him feel extremely uncomfortable and awkward. He felt that he should say something at this moment. Should he ask her if it hurt? Or say something like, "I'm sorry." However, his mouth felt as if it was weighed down by a weight. He couldn't even move his lips. Zhou Jingyi originally thought that he would say something, but unexpectedly, he didn't even say a word. Her heart turned cold, and she almost cried again. "Do I annoy you so much? Shi Fengming, what did I do wrong to make you treat me like this? I only want to stay by your side to take care of you and watch you get better. Why won't you even give me this chance? Am I so unbearable in your heart?" Shi Fengming's heart was extremely sour. He raised his eyes and glanced at her. "Why do you have to do this? I'm just waiting for death. It's not worth it for you to do this. I'm doing this for your own good. Shut up." Zhou Jingyi cried. "It's none of your business whether it's worth it or not. I really have to do this. I shouldn't have liked you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to belittle me." Zhou Jingyi's heart ached. She covered her face and ran out crying. Shi Fengming was completely stunned. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. He widened his eyes in shock and couldn't regain his senses for a long time. What did she say? She said she liked him. Chapter 279. Like her? Shi Fengming's lips curled into a mocking smile. There was once a woman who shyly told him that she liked him and wanted to be with him for the rest of her life. However, her life was so short that it added up to less than 1,000 days and nights. Later on, he found out that she meant that she liked the second young master of the Shi family, the richest man in Qingzhou, and not him. Now there was another person who said that she liked him. He wondered what she liked. Shi Fengming took a deep breath and tried his best to ignore the teary eyes in front of him. He closed his eyes tiredly. She should have given up this time, right? That would be for the best. Shi Fengming originally thought that Zhou Jingyi would run away in anger and sadness and never come back. Unexpectedly, she came back in the evening when it was time to eat and drink medicine. Her face was still covered with gauze, revealing only a pair of faint eyes. "Eat. The medicine is already brewed. I'll bring it to you later." Zhou Jingyi came in with a food box. Xiao Chui quickly pulled the table to the bedside. Shi Fengming moved his lips but did not make a sound. For some reason, he was suddenly a little afraid of her and did not dare to talk back to her. It was not that he was afraid, but he did not dare to provoke her. Zhou Jingyi brought out the dishes. Shi Fengming glanced at her and obediently picked up the bowl and chopsticks to eat. The dishes were sumptuous and steaming hot, but they tasted like wax in his mouth. He could not help but look at Zhou Jingyi uneasily. Zhou Jingyi sat on a chair at the side with her eyes lowered, as if she was thinking about something and ignored him. The atmosphere in the room was a little dull. "Cough that." Shi Fengming tried his best to eat half a bowl, but could not swallow any more. He put down the bowl and chopsticks and asked, "Is the injury on your face serious? Big brother and sister-in-law should have some good ointment. You can ask someone to get some later." Zhou Jingyi did not say anything. When he did not get a reaction from her, Shi Fengming suddenly had an indescribable feeling in his heart. He would not admit that he was a little disappointed. He could not help but laugh at himself secretly. Women are indeed the same. I can't be too good to them. Once I treat her well, she will put on airs. I'm done eating. Clean up. Shi Fengming was a little dispirited. Zhou Jingyi got up and put away the food. She carried the food box and turned around. Suddenly she said, "My brother didn't use much strength. It's fine." She walked out after saying that. Shi Fengming was stunned, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled into a faint smile. Shi Fengju came over after she finished her medicine. Zhou Jingyi bowed to him and left the room, leaving the two brothers to talk. Why are you so distracted today? What's wrong? Shi Fengju asked with a smile when he saw Shi Fengming looking listless. Seeing that he had suddenly become much more obedient, Shi Fengju also guessed that it was most likely related to Zhou Jingyi. He thought to himself that his sister-in-law was indeed an honest person. She had found a way to follow what he had taught her yesterday so quickly. When Shi Fengming heard the question, he hesitated for a moment before saying in a muffled voice, "Young Master Zhou came today." "Young Master Zhou? Your brother-in-law?" Shi Fengju laughed and said, "No wonder you look like this. Why, did someone teach you a lesson? I say, just bear with it. She only has one sister. It's inevitable that she'll be resentful if you bully her like this. It'll be fine if you vent it out. Even if you divorce, the two families can't become enemies in the future." "No, that's not right." Shi Fengju took a deep breath and looked at him with a puzzled expression. "Since when did you become someone who listens to others' scoldings? After being scolded by your brother-in-law, you're like a rooster that has lost a fight. This isn't like you. Even if you were scolded by second uncle and second aunt, I don't think you'll take it seriously, let alone an outsider." "Big brother." Shi Fengming was a little angry and embarrassed. He called out unhappily and could only say, "He hit me." Shi Fengju's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly looked at him and said, "What did you say? He hit you. Did he hurt you?" Even if the Shi family owed the Zhou family, they could not allow the Zhou family to hit them. Moreover, Shi Fengming was still sick. Young Master Zhou's actions were too much. No. Shi Fengming did not expect Shi Fengju's reaction to be so big. His heart warmed, but he felt even more embarrassed and unable to speak. "It's good that you didn't." Shi Fengju let out a sigh of relief. However, he frowned and said, "Even if you didn't hurt them, it's still too much. Let's wait for Lord Zhou and Madame Zhou to come and settle this with them. Don't worry, we won't renege on what we owe them. However, we won't tolerate other people's impudence and rudeness." No need. Shi Fengming immediately became anxious when he heard this. Seeing that he couldn't hide it anymore, he could only mumble and explain what happened with the heavy object. He only skipped the part where Zhou Jingyi took a beating for him and said that she liked him. If he didn't say it now, how could young Master Zhou not tell his parents about it when Shi Fengju asked about Lord Zhou and Madame Zhou? When the truth came out, wouldn't Shi Fengju be embarrassed? Shi Fengju listened for a long time without saying anything. He only looked at Shi Fengming and said with a smile, "I was wondering why you seem to be more honest today. So that's why." Shi Fengming was slightly disappointed. He thought that Shi Fengju would feel indignant and scold him. That way, he would feel a little better. Who knew that he would say such a thing? It made him feel as if his hopes were dashed, and he felt a little sullen for no reason. "Big brother," Shi Fengming smiled awkwardly. "Do you have any ointment that reduces swelling and bruising? Ask someone to send a bottle to her later. After all, she took that punch for me. I don't want to owe her anything." "Okay, I'll go back and look for it. I'll ask your sister-in-law to send it over." Shi Fengju nodded. Shi Fengming saw that he didn't take the opportunity to laugh at him, and secretly let out a sigh of relief. The slight awkwardness in his heart also disappeared. He hurriedly said with a smile, "Big brother, when sister-in-law asks someone to send the ointment over, don't say that it was me who said it. I don't want her to have any other thoughts." "Okay." Shi Fengju nodded again. "Then many thanks, big brother," Shi Fengming hurriedly said with a smile. Shi Fengju also smiled. He thought to himself, "Why are you still so awkward? It's just a small matter, yet you have to make it like this. If you weren't my brother, I wouldn't have the patience to play such a boring game with you." After sitting for a while longer, Shi Fengju got up and left. He returned to Ning Garden. At night, he indeed asked Sangwon to find a bottle of ointment, and asked Sangwon to have someone send it over. Sangwon then asked Xingji to send it to Su Xian Pavilion. Shi Fengju couldn't help but laugh when he thought about this matter. He then told Sangwon. Sangwon heard this and sighed. Her watery eyes were half resentful and half dissatisfied as she glared at him. She said, "Aren't you two brothers going a little overboard? Sister-in-law is really pitiful. If she finds out the truth in the future, who knows how angry she'll be. Actually, what did she do wrong? Her mistake is that she shouldn't have liked second young master. She's really honest and straightforward. That's why she let you play with her. Shifengju smiled faintly and asked, "Oh, if you were her, what would you do?" Sangwon casually said, "What would I do? Of course I would go home. Second young master clearly doesn't have her in his heart. Why bother to keep her and make him hate her? It's better to just go home and be happy. She has her parents who love her dearly and her brother who cares for her. Regardless of whether she marries in the future or not, she can live a good life. Why bother to be so entangled? Wouldn't she be the one suffering if she were to be entangled?" Shifengju dragged out an "oh" and leaned back on the couch. His voice was somewhat faint as he said, "So that's what Wanyang thinks." Sangwon didn't notice the emotion in his words and continued to say, "Is it wrong to think this way? She'll only be humiliated if she stays." Shifengju felt even more depressed for no reason. He refused to accept this and said, "But when we were in Hangzhou, didn't you try your best to persuade second young master to keep sister-in-law? Why did you change your mind now? You can't wait for sister-in-law to leave. Wanyang, your position changed too quickly. These are clearly two different things." Sangwon said, "I have a good relationship with sister-in-law. I can also see that she really likes second young master. If they reconcile, wouldn't it be good for everyone? It's second young master's good fortune to have a wife like her. But second young master has already pretended to be sick, and sister-in-law still doesn't leave him. According to what we said before, he should believe sister-in-law, right? He won't. This can only mean that he never wanted to keep sister-in-law. If that's the case, why should sister-in-law stay? It's better to just go home. If she leaves so easily, then she's not sincere to second young master. If she really likes second young master, why would she leave just like that?" Shifengju refused to accept this. Sangwon said again, "Then what do you think is sincere? Does she have to pester him to death to be sincere? Sincerity can't withstand tests and injuries. As long as one is human, one will feel tired sooner or later. Instead of giving up at that point, it's better to let go now and leave a good impression on each other. At least, when they think of each other, they won't feel disgusted. Second young master doesn't like sister-in-law at all. So what if she's willing to stay by his side? She'll just make him hate her even more. Besides, there was Su Qinger in the past. Who knows who else will be there in the future? Since second young master hates her to this extent, she'll be the one to suffer in the future." Shifengju suddenly sat up and placed his hands on Sangwon's shoulders. "Are these words from Wanyang's heart? Does Wanyang really think so?" Sangwon was startled. When she came back to her senses, she couldn't help but feel vexed. She forced a smile and said, "I'm just expressing my feelings. I only have no scruples in front of you. Don't tell anyone what I said. If anyone knows, I won't be able to face them. I'm expressing my feelings." Shifengju sighed and said. He lowered his head and rubbed his forehead against hers. He smiled and said, "Wanyang, I won't treat you like this. You can't leave me, okay?" Sangwon was most unwilling to talk about the mess with Gu Fengzi and Wang. When she heard that he seemed to want to mention it again, she smiled and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Of course I won't." "It's good that you won't." Shifengju pulled her into his arms and hugged her tightly. He lowered his head and kissed her gently on the lips. He said softly, "Wanyang, I won't do anything you don't like. Mother is my mother after all. I can only make decisions for my own matters." Sangwon forced a smile and nodded gently in his embrace. Chapter 280. This doctor was naturally one of their own. After his diagnosis, he did not say whether it was good or bad. He only said that the situation was not as bad as before. As for whether he could recover completely, it was hard to say. However, it was not good for the patient to be cooped up in the house all day. He should go out to walk around in the courtyard more often to feel the wind and bask in the sun. His mood would be better, and it would be good for his condition. Thus, Zhou Jingyi, in addition to urging him to take his medicine on time, had one more thing to do. She asked someone to move the soft couch into the courtyard and helped him walk around every day. She did not talk much. He sat on the couch while she stood at a distance. It was unknown what she was looking at or thinking about. There was no one else in the courtyard, and Shi Fengming had no one to talk to. He could only stare at the flowers and leaves in front of him in a daze. He watched the flowers and leaves sway slightly in the breeze and smelled the faint fragrance of the flowers. It was reasonable to say that he should feel very bored, but for some reason, his originally impetuous heart had unknowingly calmed down bit by bit. He only felt that he had never been so calm and content as he was at this moment. It was as if he had lived a peaceful and happy life. This day, when Shi Fengju and Sangwon came in, they saw such a scene. Shi Fengming sat on the couch under the tree and stared blankly at a few pots of different colored hibiscus flowers in front of him. Zhou Jingyi, on the other hand, was standing in the corridor, leaning against a pillar and looking at the sky in a daze. The two of them seemed to be immersed in their own world. Neither of them had anything to do with the other, but they looked exceptionally harmonious. When Shi Fengju and Sangwon walked in, neither of them noticed. One was still looking at the flowers while the other was looking at the sky. Shi Fengju and Sangwon looked at each other. Sangwon could not help but laugh. "Second brother, why are you in a daze?" Shi Fengju coughed. "Big brother, sister-in-law." The two of them who were in a daze finally came back to their senses and saw the couple. Zhou Jingyi smiled apologetically and hurriedly walked over to Shi Fengju and Sangwon. Shi Fengju subconsciously wanted to stand up as well, but he regained his senses after being stared at by Shi Fengju. He sat back down and looked over with a smile. "Big brother, sister-in-law, why are you here?" Zhou Jingyi quickly smiled and said, "This courtyard is filled with the smell of medicine, sister-in-law. Don't stay here for too long." As she said that, she took out a piece of gauze from her bosom and smiled. "This is clean, sister-in-law. Please cover it up." Sangwon held his hand and said with a smile, "There's no harm in the courtyard. Aren't you also not covered?" "I'm not that weak." Zhou Jingyi smiled. Shi Fengju took the gauze and carefully covered Sangwon's mouth and nose with it. He said with a smile, "It's better to be careful. Your body is weak." Sangwon looked at him and smiled gently, allowing him to no longer refuse. Shi Fengming only felt that his teeth were about to fall out. He thought to himself, "Big brother, you don't have to be like this. You and sister-in-law clearly know that I'm pretending. The two of you are acting too much." Zhou Jingyi looked at Shi Fengju's gentle actions and expressions. The two of them looked at each other with smiles and affection, as if nothing in this world could interfere. She then glanced at her husband who was sitting on the couch, and couldn't even be bothered to look at her. She felt a sense of loss and said with a smile, "Big brother, sister-in-law, please wait for a moment. I'll go get 2 chairs for you." "There's no need for that." Shi Fengju smiled and said, "The weather is good. It's good for us to stand and walk around in this courtyard." Shi Fengju said and then turned to look at Sangwon with a smile. "Wanyang, are you tired? If you're tired, you can sit down." Sangwon shook her head with a smile. "I'm fine." She didn't know why, but when they were in Hangzhou and on the way back, Shi Fengju had always been so gentle and considerate to his wife. Shi Fengming had secretly mocked his brother at first, but he had gotten used to it. However, at this moment, seeing the husband and wife so intimate in front of him, he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. He coughed and said with a smile that wasn't a smile, "Big brother, sister-in-law, it's not easy for you to come and see me together. Why don't you say a few words to me? You're the only ones talking." Sangwon glared at Shi Fengju and said, "Look at you." Shi Fengju smiled at her in a good-natured manner, and then said to Shi Fengming, "How are you? Are you feeling better today?" Shi Fengming snorted and said resentfully, "I'm feeling better. At least I haven't gone moldy." Sangwon went over to Zhou Jingyi to talk to her. She asked her a few questions and reminded her to take care of her body, so that she wouldn't fall ill from exhaustion. Zhou Jingyi nodded repeatedly. Her eyes reddened as she forced a smile and said, "Thank you for your concern, sister-in-law. I'll take care." In this residence, the only person who truly treated her with sincerity was this sister-in-law in front of her. She had been taking care of Shi Fengming these past few days, but when had he ever said a word of concern to her? It was already good enough that he had a cold face and cold eyes. Earlier he had even called her an evil woman, a vicious woman who couldn't wait to kill her. When people compared themselves to others, it was impossible not to feel sad and disappointed. Sister-in-law, thank you for being so good to me. I'll always remember your kindness to me, Zhou Jingyi said with a smile. Why are you saying such silly things out of the blue? Sangwon said with a smile. The two of us can be considered to hit it off, and we're sisters-in-law. Isn't it only right that I treat you well? Sister-in-law is right. Zhou Jingyi's heart was filled with bitterness, and when she spoke, she unconsciously sounded like she was about to cry. What's wrong with you? Sangwon jumped in fright and unconsciously raised her voice, immediately attracting the attention of Shi Fengju and Shi Fengming. Nothing. Zhou Jingyi couldn't help but feel embarrassed, but the tears in her eyes couldn't be stopped. She didn't dare to raise her head, nor did she dare to raise her hand to wipe them away. She hurriedly said with a smile, That's right. Sister-in-law, you're so good to me. I'm very grateful. Even though Zhou Jingyi tried her best to hold it in, her slight sobbing was still caught by a few people. Shi Fengming was stunned, and Shi Fengju frowned slightly. He felt that it was better not to get involved, so he smiled at Sangwon and said, We've been here for a while. Let's go back. We don't want second brother to tire himself out. Sangwon smiled and nodded. She bid farewell to the two of them and left with Shi Fengju. Only then did Zhou Jingyi secretly heave a sigh of relief. She turned around and walked back into the room. Hey, Shi Fengming called out to her and asked hesitantly, Are you all right? Zhou Jingyi was furious. With her back facing him, she said lightly, What can happen to me? You're so stubborn. Do you think everyone is deaf? Then, why did you enter the room? Shi Fengming couldn't help but ask. Zhou Jingyi said angrily, I'm tired from standing. Can't I go in and sit for a while? As she said that, she took a few steps into the room. Shi Fengming pursed his lips and felt wronged. He thought to himself, Why is she crying for no reason? I didn't do anything to provoke you. The two of them, one inside and one outside, went into a daze. Both inside and outside the room were silent. What Shi Fengming didn't know was that Zhou Jingyi's tears were flowing silently down her face in this room that was separated by a wall. Old Master Zhou and Old Mistress Zhou finally arrived at the Shi family and met with Second Lord Shi and his wife. Although they were polite on the surface, they were actually complaining about each other in their hearts. Especially Old Mistress Zhou and Second Mistress Shi. Their gazes would occasionally meet, and it was as if sparks would fly from the collision. I really didn't expect something like this to happen. Sigh, my Xiaoyi's life is really tough. After exchanging greetings, Old Mistress Zhou sighed and raised her handkerchief to wipe the corners of her eyes. Second Mistress Shi's expression changed and she snorted. The one who's really pitiful is my son Fengming. Sigh, if my daughter-in-law had some tricks up her sleeves and was able to win him over, this wouldn't have happened. Really, if something were to happen to him, how am I supposed to live on? After saying that, she also raised her handkerchief to wipe the corners of her eyes. Old Mistress Zhou was furious and glared at her coldly. What do you mean? Second Mistress Shi refused to back down. What I said is the truth. You. Enough. Old Master Zhou quickly interrupted and asked with a sigh. How is my son-in-law now? Is his condition getting better? Old Mistress Zhou glanced at him unhappily and asked, What about my daughter? How is she these few days? Second Lord Shi quickly smiled and said, Fengming's condition is quite stable now. He's taking medicine every day. My daughter-in-law is taking care of him, and their relationship is much better than before. I think. What? Old Mistress Zhou widened her eyes in shock. In-law, what did you say? My Xiaoyi has been taking care of my son-in-law. That's right. Second Lord Shi was shocked by her reaction. However, Second Mistress Shi was not convinced and snorted. What? Shouldn't she be? Your daughter is my son's daughter-in-law. My son is sick. Shouldn't she be taking care of him by his side? Second Mistress Shi was so angry that she lost her head. She was unhappy with Old Mistress Zhou's words and could not help but raise her voice, forgetting her and her son's original intentions. Old Mistress Zhou was flustered and exclaimed, "No! I have to go take a look. How can this be? Don't you have any servants in your household? If you don't, just tell me and I'll bring a few over from the Zhou household. My son-in-law has an infectious disease. How can I let my daughter take care of him by his side? My daughter is my daughter-in-law, and you are her parents. Why don't I see you taking care of him by his side? You're clearly bullying my daughter." Old Mistress Zhou covered her face and started crying. She wanted to rush out. Old Mistress! Old Mistress! Old Master Zhou was also very unhappy, but he still retained some rationality. Seeing this, he quickly pulled Old Mistress Zhou back. "Old Mistress, don't be anxious. Let's talk things out slowly." Since so many days had passed, a little more time would not make a difference. "How can I talk things out? They're already bullying us. Your son's life is important, but isn't my daughter's life? If anything happens to my daughter, I'll kill myself in your Shi household." Old Mistress Zhou became agitated. "Old Mistress Shi, what are you saying?" Second Lord Shi was shocked. "When my daughter-in-law came back that day, we advised her not to take care of him personally, but she insisted on going. She even said that all of you agreed to it, so how could we agree to it?" Old Mistress Zhou said angrily. "What reputation? I've lived for so long, why would I care about that? Unless I'm stupid, I won't use my daughter's life in exchange for a worthless reputation. My daughter would never say such a thing. I'm going to find her and ask her personally." Chapter 281. Second Old Mistress Shi was reminded by her husband's words that day. When she regained her senses, she quickly suppressed her anger and smiled. "In-law, why are you in such a hurry? Won't it be clear whether this is true or not once our daughter-in-law arrives? We are also old people. Do you think we would tell such a lie that even a 3-year-old child wouldn't be fooled by? In-law, you should sit down first. Even if we don't want to talk about it, we still have to talk about it clearly." Old Mistress Zhou sat down with a grunt and said, "You're right about the latter part. Even if we don't want to talk about it, we still have to talk about it clearly. At that time, my daughter was muddle-headed and entered your family. I won't mention this matter anymore. Serves us right for being unlucky. Who asked us to not figure out the situation clearly? But my daughter was wronged in your family, and now my son-in-law is in such a state. In-law, you have to give the Zhou family an explanation." Second Lord Shi was unhappy to hear that. He thought to himself, "You still have the cheek to say that you've been talking about it for most of your life. I think you're not as understanding as our daughter-in-law. What kind of nonsense is she spouting?" However, Second Old Mistress Shi agreed and sighed. "What you said makes sense too. No matter whether we admit it or not, our Shi family has mistreated our daughter-in-law." Old Mistress Zhou raised her eyebrows in surprise and thought to herself, "Did I hear wrongly? This shrew actually said that." Second Lord Shi and Old Master Zhou knew Second Old Mistress Shi well, and could not help but feel puzzled. It's good that you know." Old Mistress Zhou sneered. "Look at how smug you are. You'll regret it in the future." Second Old Mistress Shi's heart was filled with hatred, but she still sighed. "I don't know when our Fengming will recover. If by any chance, wouldn't that be harming our daughter-in-law? I think, why don't we just divorce? Let our daughter-in-law be free as soon as possible." "How can we do that?" Old Master Zhou said anxiously. "Everything is still unknown. Our son-in-law's situation might not be that bad." "I think that's good." Old Mistress Zhou was relieved and smiled. "We don't need the dowry as long as my daughter can return safely. That's enough." "In-law, how can we do that?" Second Old Mistress Shi quickly said. "Of course, we will return all of our daughter-in-law's dowry. Other than that, we will also compensate you with an additional sum. Only then can we be at ease." "Since you're so considerate, then I'll thank you on behalf of my daughter." Madame Zhou smiled. Second Lord Shi pulled a long face. He wanted to refuse, but he realized that he was in no position to refuse. If they really delayed their daughter-in-law's life like this, the 2 elders of the Zhou family would definitely not let it go. Lord Zhou muttered to himself, "It's still not too appropriate, right? After all, My son-in-law is now seriously ill in bed. If my daughter were to leave him at this time, in the eyes of outsiders, wouldn't it be too heartless? Old Mistress Joe's expression changed slightly, and could not help but scold second old Mistress Sure for being vicious. Fortunately, her husband was meticulous, or else he would have fallen for this woman's trap. She was absolutely unwilling to ruin her daughter's reputation. Second old Mistress Sure was also cursing in her heart, thinking that the two of them were really scheming to want to keep their faces. If it weren't for the fact that my son was fine, there would be no way for you to bring my daughter home. At this moment, she did not want to be entangled with them, so she looked at Second Lord Sure and sighed. Lord, let's be a good person until the end. Speaking of which, it's our family that has let down our daughter-in-law, so it's only right for us to do this for her. If we delay her life because of this, how can we be at ease? What could Second Lord Sure do in front of Lord Joe and his wife? He was furious and thought to himself, you sure know how to be a good person. Why don't you think about your son? If it really comes to that, there won't even be a person to keep vigil for him. My poor son will be all alone in the netherworld, without a companion in the future. Is this something that a mother like you should say? Why haven't I seen you being so magnanimous before? Second Lord Sure was furious and sighed. What you said makes sense. How about this? Let's see what my daughter-in-law wants to do. I have no objections to her decision. His daughter-in-law was virtuous. At least he was very satisfied with her performance after her return this time. Since his daughter-in-law did not leave his son, he believed that she would not be willing to leave. Second old Mistress Sure frowned slightly. Old Mistress Joe could not wait any longer and quickly nodded. Lord Sure is right. Then let's leave it at that. Actually, you can't blame my daughter. It's my son-in-law who let her down first. Now that things have come to this, it's useless for her to stay. In old Mistress Joe's opinion, unless her daughter's brain was damaged, it was impossible for her not to be willing to leave. Who in the family did not treat her like a precious pearl? Who could bear to let her suffer? Wouldn't that be better than being a widow at such a young age in the Sure family? Lord Sure is right. Then let's invite my daughter over. Let's clear up this matter. Then we'll go and see my son-in-law. Lord Joe said. Old Mistress Joe glared at him and thought to herself, this old man really doesn't know how to talk. Once this matter is cleared up, what son-in-law will there be? All right. Second Lord Sure endured the unhappiness in his heart and thought to himself, don't be happy too early, you'll know when your daughter-in-law comes. After saying that, he ordered someone to call Zhou Jingyi over. Zhou Jingyi was in a daze accompanying Shi Fengming in Bai Luo Pavilion's courtyard when a servant suddenly came to report that her parents were here. Zhou Jingyi was overjoyed and quickly left. When she arrived at the hall, Zhou Jingyi's sharp senses felt that the atmosphere was a little off. Before she could greet her parents-in-law and parents, old Mistress Zhou had already stood up and held her hand tightly. She looked at her nervously and asked, Daughter, are you all right? Are you all right? Mother. Zhou Jingyi smiled and said, I'm fine, what could be wrong? You and father are finally here. I've been looking forward to seeing you two every day. Zhou Jingyi's words meant one thing, but to old Mistress Zhou and old Mistress Zhou, it had a different meaning. The two of them exchanged glances and old Mistress Zhou nodded with tears in her eyes. Good child, don't worry. We're here, leave everything to us. Zhou Jingyi was a little confused. Facing her mother's earnest gaze, she forced a smile and nodded. Second old Mistress Sure was a little impatient when she saw the mother and daughter complaining endlessly. She coughed and said, Daughter-in-law, I called you over because I have an urgent matter for you to decide. Like I said before, Fengming is already in such a state, we don't want to hold you back. Since your parents are here, they're willing to take you back. Just nod your head and this matter will be settled. Don't worry. The Sure family will not mistreat you. I guarantee that you'll leave with your head held high. Daughter-in-law, Second Lord Sure also said lightly, don't have any misgivings. Just speak your mind and I'll make the decision for you. Old Mistress Zhou was unhappy and said, Old Master Sure, that's not right. The ones who should make the decision are us, her parents. Old Master Zhou also glanced at Second Lord Sure suspiciously and nodded his head at his daughter. Xiao Yi, with father and mother here, you can say whatever you want. You don't have to worry about anything. Father and mother have always doted on you and will definitely make the decision for you. Second Lord Sher was secretly annoyed and thought to himself, what do you two mean? Are you suspecting that we're secretly threatening our daughter-in-law? Old Mistress Zhou quickly added, what else is there to say? Of course my daughter will leave with us. That's for the best. Daughter-in-law. Second Old Mistress Sher was overjoyed. She glanced at Zhou Jingyi with the corner of her eyes slightly raised and a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Your parents are right, you should go back with them. Let's part on good terms. This will prevent outsiders from saying that our Sher family is mean. In all honesty, when have we ever been mean to you? My good daughter, don't worry your mother to death. Just say it. Father and mother are the ones who are truly looking out for you. You're the apple of our eye. If you don't lead a good life, we won't be able to live peacefully for the rest of our lives. We won't be able to live peacefully even if we close our eyes in the future. Old Mistress Zhou couldn't help but feel sad as she spoke. Mother! Zhou Jingyi's nose turned sour and she cried. How could she not know how much her parents cherished and cared for her? Her mother-in-law complained that she was useless and couldn't wait to chase her out of the house. Although her father-in-law would make the decision for her. How much would a man like him know about the inner courtyard? She couldn't possibly complain to him every day in the future, right? Even if he wasn't annoyed, who would she complain to? Complain to her mother-in-law? Wouldn't that be a joke? More importantly, her husband truly hated her from the bottom of his heart. No matter what she did, he would be indifferent. If he didn't see her, he would be a little happier. Why did she have to stay and make him feel uncomfortable? He was her parents-in-law's son, and there were plenty of people to take care of him in the Sher family. Her presence wouldn't make much difference. After thinking about it, no matter how she looked at it, she should have left instead of staying. Zhou Jingyi secretly mocked herself. It had always been her own wishful thinking and taking things for granted. Everyone was right, only she was wrong. Zhou Jingyi nodded and said, Father, mother, your daughter will listen to you. Your daughter will listen to you. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, I'm sorry, your daughter-in-law can't be filial anymore. Please take care of yourselves in the future. Old Master Zhou and Old Mistress Zhou heaved a sigh of relief and nodded with a smile. Old Mistress Zhou clapped her hands happily and said, That's right. That's right. In the future, father and mother will definitely be fine. Since that's the case, you should come back with us today. As for the dowry, we'll send someone to collect it after your household has checked it. What do you think, father and mother? She didn't want any unforeseen events to happen. That's good too. Second Old Mistress Sher was afraid that her husband would cause trouble again, and quickly nodded. She sighed and said, Daughter-in-law, don't say that. Take care of yourself in the future. Just forget everything that happened in the past. You're still young and still have many days ahead of you. Do as you wish. I have nothing to say about this. Second Lord Sher said coldly. Old Master Zhou and Old Mistress Zhou didn't care about his expression. Especially Old Mistress Zhou. She smiled and greeted Second Old Mistress Sher while instructing Su Qing and Su Bai to pack up Missy's undergarments and send them to the carriage so that they could return to the household later. Chapter 282. Since we're here, let's go and see our son-in-law. Oh no, second young Master Sher. I believe that he is blessed with good fortune, and will be able to turn misfortune into blessing. Old Master Zhou saw his wife smiling and circling around his daughter, forgetting that he was here to visit his son-in-law. Even though he was no longer their son-in-law, he still had to do his part, didn't he? Ah, yes. Look at my memory. Old Mistress Zhou slapped her forehead and laughed. There's no need. Second Lord Sher and his wife said at the same time. I don't think there's a need for that. We'll accept your kind intentions. Second Lord Sher's heart was filled with annoyance. Yes. Fengming is sick. It won't be a small matter if he gets infected. Let's not go. Second Old Mistress Sher thought that her son would not be willing to see his parents-in-law, so she stopped them with a smile. Old Master Zhou and Madame Zhou originally did not have a strong desire to visit Sher Fengming, but they had to mention it out of politeness. Since his parents were unwilling, they were happy to save themselves the trouble, So they said a few polite words and left the stage. Father, mother. Wait here, I'll go and bid farewell to second young master, Zhou Jingyi suddenly said. I don't think there's a need. Second old mistress sure smiled. Didn't you just come from there? What's there to bid farewell for? That's right, Xiao Yi. Old mistress Zhou added. There's no need to do so. Be obedient. Mother. Zhou Jingyi insisted. Mother, please grant me my wish. Mother-in-law. Second old mistress sure. Please grant me my wish. I only want to see him once. I'll leave after saying a few words. Old mistress Zhou knew her daughter's temperament. She did not want to go against her wishes and cause any more trouble at the last moment. So she nodded and said, If that's the case, then go. Come back after saying a few words. We still have to hurry home. Second old mistress sure thought to herself, what's the big deal in this last moment? If she wants to be rebuffed, then so be it. If I keep stopping her, then I'll be the one being unreasonable. So she smiled and agreed. Zhou Jingyi curtsied and thanked him. She turned around and left. As for the divorce papers and dowry, she did not care at all. With her parents around, they would take care of it. When he heard that his father-in-law and mother-in-law were here, Shi Fengming felt a little guilty. He was afraid that his mother-in-law would come and scold him. That shrewish woman would not only scold him, she would even dare to hit him. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if he couldn't even hide? Shi Fengming was feeling uneasy and anxious. Suddenly he saw Zhou Jingyi walk in. He quickly looked behind her. There was no one else. Only then did he secretly heave a sigh of relief. Your parents have gone back? Zhou Jingyi's already cold heart turned even colder. Her mouth was filled with bitterness. He really hated his own family to the extreme. The moment he opened his mouth, he asked if his parents had returned. Was he that eager for them to leave? Zhou Jingyi shook her head. They won't come over, don't worry. We'll leave soon. When Shi Fengming heard that they wouldn't come over, he was completely relieved. However, when he heard the last sentence, he raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at her. Did I hear wrongly? What do you mean? Zhou Jingyi stood in front of him and forced a smile. She said, My parents and your parents have discussed it. We'll divorce. I'll go back with my parents today. In the future, I won't be in front of you to annoy you anymore. You should be satisfied now. I think it'll be good for your illness too. Second young master, take care. Zhou Jingyi had these words in her heart several times along the way. She thought that she could say it calmly, but she didn't expect that every word that came out was like a knife cutting through her heart. Her heart was in pain. Before she could finish speaking, tears had already filled her eyes. She quickly lowered her head and blinked, biting her lip and trying to hold it in. Shi Fengming was completely stunned. His heart was blank. Divorce? She was leaving? Leaving now? He had indeed been looking forward to this day. However, when this moment really came, he was at a loss. He suddenly felt at a loss. Zhou Jingyi saw that he didn't have any reaction. He didn't even say a word. Her heart ached even more. The tears that she tried to hold back could no longer be controlled. She started to sob. She quickly turned her back to him and covered her face with both hands to suppress her sobs. I'm leaving. You must get better. Take care. Zhou Jingyi couldn't stay any longer. She turned around and ran out. She didn't want to lose her composure in front of him. It would only increase his disgust. At this moment, she really hated herself for being so useless. She liked him. She liked him so much, but what was the use? Shi Fengming didn't say anything. He just stared blankly at the door where she disappeared. He was still a little dumbfounded by what happened just now. He couldn't believe that it was real. In the morning, when she stared at him drinking his medicine, he was still secretly angry. He couldn't wait for her to leave. However, when she really left, Shi Fengming's heart skipped a beat. He subconsciously clenched his fists. She really left. In the future, he would never see her again. Was he happy? He didn't know. He retracted his gaze and stared at the bright and charming hibiscus flowers in front of him. He suddenly felt that the bright colors of the flowers were burning his eyes, making him feel very uncomfortable. As the wind blew, the petals of the blooming flowers rustled and fell to the ground silently, scattering all over the ground. The Sher family's second old master and his wife couldn't bear to delay their daughter-in-law's youth. When their son was terminally ill, they insisted on divorcing their daughter-in-law. Their daughter-in-law, Madame Zhou, couldn't bear to part with her and cried bitterly. Everyone in the household was moved to tears. However, under her mother-in-law's persuasion, she finally got on the carriage and left with her parents. When people heard about it, they couldn't help but sigh and praise. First, they praised the Sher family's second old master and his wife for being righteous. Second, they praised Madame Zhou's love for her family. After sending off the Zhou family, the Sher family regained its peace. However, everyone had their own thoughts. Gu Fangzi disagreed in her heart. She thought that Zhou Jingyi was really a fool. Even with the support of her family, she couldn't even win against a prostitute and ended up in such a state. She was pitiful and deserved it. Sangwon was also very sad. She didn't expect things to end up like this. Zhou Jingyi's heart-wrenching cries still echoed in her ears. She could see that she really couldn't bear to leave, but she had no choice but to take this step. Shi Fengming had really let her down. In the carriage, Zhou Jingyi was still sobbing. Her voice was choked with sobs, her cheeks were red, and her chest was throbbing with pain. Old Mistress Zhou's heart ached. She helped her wipe her tears and gently patted her back. She sighed and persuaded. All right, don't cry. Look at you, it's just an act. Why are you crying so hard? It's all in the past. Be good, don't cry. Zhou Jingyi didn't explain. She laid in her mother's arms and sobbed for a while before she stopped crying. She was tired from crying and fell asleep. Old Mistress Zhou sighed and pitied her. She carefully hugged her daughter and made her more comfortable before gently wiping away her tears. Looking at her daughter's sleeping face, she felt warmth in her heart. Her daughter finally belonged to her again. She wouldn't let her suffer any more grievances. After sending the Zhou family off, second old Mistress Shi went to Bailuo Pavilion with a smile. She dismissed the servants and said to Fengming with a smile, Fengming, the Zhou family has finally left. From now on, they have nothing to do with our family anymore. Hee, you don't have to pretend to be sick anymore. Just bear with it for a few more days, and this matter will be over. Mother will find a good marriage partner for you. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. Fengming, this time Mother won't act on my own. If you don't like someone, we'll find another one. There are many good ladies in Qingzhou City. There's bound to be one that you'll like. When you have a family again, you can live your life well. If there's anyone outside that you like, feel free to take her in. As long as you're happy, anything is fine. Second old Mistress Shi spoke and laughed. Her face was full of smiles as she looked forward to the future. However, Shi Fengming's heart became frustrated and he said impatiently, Enough, Mother. I'm not in the mood for that now. Let's talk about it later. Marry again? Of course, he would marry again. However, he felt that he was lacking in interest. Wasn't it just like that? It was the same no matter who he married. As long as it was a woman that was barely pleasing to his eyes, he wouldn't have any objections. Yes. Of course, it has to be later. No one would look for a marriage partner right after Zhou Shi left. Mother will secretly keep an eye out for you. You can get married next year. Second old Mistress Shi chuckled. We'll talk about it later. Shi Fengming said lazily. He couldn't help but ask, the Zhou family left just like that? Second old Mistress Shi scoffed. What else do they want? I've given them enough face. Don't worry about Mother's work. After today, they won't be able to come and cause trouble. Speaking of which, Zhou Shi is quite interesting. She cried so hard that it looked like she was really crying. That woman, I didn't expect her to be so good at acting. Shi Fengming subconsciously trembled. She cried? Second old Mistress Shi chuckled. You're talking nonsense again. How can she not cry? If she doesn't cry, won't it seem like she abandoned her sick husband and was heartless? Shi Fengming did not speak. The scene of her tears and her suppressed cries when she said goodbye to him flashed in front of his eyes. He knew that she wasn't acting. Even Mother said so. It could be seen how sad she was at that time. Was he really worth it? This woman was really silly. She was so silly that it made him feel a little apologetic and uneasy. Mother, you should go back first. I want to be alone for a while. Shi Fengming listened to his mother's long-winded nagging. She was either saying that Zhou Shi was bad or finding another marriage for him. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Seeing that, second old mistress Shi stopped talking and smiled. Okay. Then you should rest. This time, there won't be anyone causing trouble in front of you. I'm sure you'll be in a better mood. Son, just bear with it for a few more days and it'll be done. I know. You should go now. Shi Fengming became even more impatient. You child. Look at you. Second old mistress Shi chuckled and got up to leave. As long as her son was well, and he could marry a daughter-in-law that she was satisfied with, she really had nothing else to ask for. Chapter 283. The courtyard quietened down, and Shi Fengming suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Actually, when she was around he rarely spoke to her, and she also spoke very little. Most of the time, she was quiet. But at this moment, it felt different. Not only was it quiet, but it was also empty. It was so quiet that he could clearly hear his own heartbeat. And it was so empty that it made him panic for no reason. Shi Fengming sighed in distress. Why was it so annoying? Second young master, it's time for you to drink your medicine. Xiao Cui seemed to have sensed that the atmosphere was not normal, and carefully carried the bowl of medicine forward. Get lost. Shi Fengming was annoyed, and when he saw this, he glared at her. Second young master. Xiao Cui was so scared that she trembled, and her heart trembled. Second young mistress had already divorced and returned to the Zhou family. She did not dare to force young master to drink medicine like second young mistress. Not only did she not dare to, but she also had to pray in her heart that second young master would not remember that she had been second young mistress's accomplice, to force him to drink medicine. Otherwise, when he settled the score, she would not even have a place to cry. Put down the medicine and get out. Shi Fengming suddenly raised his head and said coldly. Yes, second young master. Xiao Cui hurriedly put down the bowl of medicine as if she had been pardoned, and ran out as if she was escaping. It was best that second young master took the initiative to drink the medicine, and it would be best if he did so in the future. Shi Fengming looked at the bowl of medicine in a daze. If she was still there, she would have brought the bowl of medicine over. Although her expression was cold, she would only stop when she saw that he drank all the medicine. He picked up the bowl of medicine and brought it to his lips. A strong smell of medicine hit him in the face, causing him to unconsciously frown and turn his face away in disgust. After taking a few deep breaths, he turned back and prepared to drink it. His stomach churned, and he hurriedly put the bowl of medicine on the side table, unwilling to take another look. This smell was too unbearable. He even wondered if Xiao Cui had put something else in the medicine when she brewed it. If not, why was he unable to drink it now, when he could drink it in the past? Shi Fengming sighed softly, got up, and poured the bowl of medicine at the roots of the flowers. He did not want to drink this medicine anymore. Zhou Jingyi spent 2 or 3 days in a daze at home. Seeing her like this, old mistress Zhou couldn't help but shed tears of heartache. Zhou Jingyi felt even more guilty towards her mother. She collected her emotions, and was willing to put on some brighter clothes to dress herself up. Old mistress Zhou was delighted to see this. That's right. Why grieve over something that has nothing to do with you? Good child. Why don't mother bring you to the manor to stay for a few days to relax? Take good care of your body, and adjust your mood. Next year, father and mother will pick a good marriage for you. Let's see if the Shi family won't regret it. My daughter is so good, yet she has been ruined by them for nothing. Zhou Jingyi listened absent-mindedly, but when she heard the last 2 sentences, she was shocked and could not help but exclaim, Father and mother still want to marry me off. When old mistress Zhou heard this, her heart ached. She gently patted her hand and said with a gentle smile, Silly girl, you're still so young. How can you not get married? If you don't have a good home, how can father and mother be at ease? Don't be afraid, it's enough to suffer this kind of loss once. There's no reason for it to happen a second time. This time, father and mother will definitely investigate the other party's situation thoroughly before they agree. Don't worry. Old mistress Zhou thought that she was frightened and hurriedly comforted her. However, Zhou Jinyi's heart felt uneasy. She forced a smile and did not reply. It was inevitable that things would change at night. Zhou Jinyi thought about it and felt that it was necessary to make things clear to her parents. In this life, she would never marry again. No matter how heartless he was to her, she would never be able to forget it. Even more so, she would never be able to become husband and wife with another strange man. Just thinking about it made her feel very uncomfortable. The next day, Zhou Jinyi expressed her intentions in front of old Master Zhou and his wife. She would rather live the rest of her life indifferently than marry again. She hoped that the two elders would grant her wish. Old Mistress Zhou was stunned. When she regained her senses, she blurted out, "No. What kind of state are you in? Are you deliberately trying to make your parents sad?" "Mother, I really don't want to marry again. It's fine like this, really." "Nonsense," Old Mistress Zhou said angrily. "What do you mean by marry again? Do you think father and mother will harm you? What's so good about this? Don't you think that in the future, when father and mother are no longer around, you won't have anyone to care for you? You won't even have a son or daughter to rely on. How are you going to let father and mother die peacefully?" "Mother." Zhou Jinyi suddenly felt sad, but said resolutely, "I beg you, please don't force me. I won't marry again. I really don't want to marry again. In the future, I will buy a few acres of land, or else I will become a monk." "Shut up." Old Mistress Zhou was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She said, "Become a monk? How dare you say that? As long as I'm still alive, don't even think about it. Wait until I close my eyes, then you can do whatever you want." As she said that, she cried again. What a disappointing girl. Old Mistress. Don't be anxious, listen to your daughter's words. Old Master Zhou quickly stopped her and said kindly to Zhou Jinyi, "Xiao-yi, there's only father and mother here. Don't be shy, father won't beat around the bush with you. This time, father and mother will definitely find a suitable husband for you. Don't worry about this. If you still don't want to marry, you must have a reason, right?" When old Mistress Zhou heard that, she stopped crying and looked at her daughter. Zhou Jinyi was a little embarrassed and lowered her head without saying a word. Say that she couldn't forget Shi Fengming? That's why she didn't want to marry again? If father and mother knew, they would be so angry that they would be speechless. But if she didn't say that, what reason did she have to refuse? Did she really have to go along with father and mother's wishes? That way, she wouldn't be happy for the rest of her life. She couldn't lie to herself. "Daughter, tell father and mother the truth. Father and mother aren't unreasonable people, right? Aren't we doing this for your own good? If you don't want to say it, you'll really make father and mother sad." Old Master Zhou sighed. "Father, Zhou Jinyi was anxious, but she still couldn't say it. "Ah, I know." Old Mistress Zhou looked at her suspiciously and suddenly exclaimed, "Xiao-yi, don't tell me you're still thinking about that heartless man from the Shi family." Zhou Jinyi was stunned and looked away with a guilty conscience. "It's true." Old Mistress Zhou was flustered and exasperated. The more heartache she felt, the angrier she became. She scolded with a sullen face, "You wretched girl. Do you really want to anger me to death? He almost came to humiliate you, but you're still thinking about him. What's there to think about that heartless and unscrupulous thing? Let me tell you, you have no choice but to marry him. From today onwards, you'd better obediently stay in the residence and wait for the bridal sedan chair next year. This matter is settled. There's no room for discussion." "Mother." Zhou Jinyi's face turned pale. She knew that her mother would do as she said. "Don't call me mother. There's no room for discussion. If you're my daughter, you'll listen to me." Old Mistress Zhou's face was cold. All right. Xiao-yi, go back to your room first. This matter isn't urgent anyway. Both of you, don't be too agitated. Go. Old Master Zhou waved his hand at his daughter. Zhou Jinyi bit her lips and held back the tears in her eyes. She turned around and ran away while sobbing. "That wretched girl. She really wants to anger me to death," Old Mistress Zhou said angrily. Old Master Zhou glanced at her. "Our daughter has just returned from her divorce, and her heart is still sad about Rizhong. Why are you in such a hurry to bring this matter up? Can't you wait a little before bringing it up?" Old Mistress Zhou sneered, sad? I think it's time to have a banquet to celebrate. What's so bad about leaving that quagmire of a life? I don't know what kind of bewitching potion that brat gave her to make her so infatuated with him. You can't object this time. My daughter can't be ruined like this. I must find a good family for her. You're pushing her too hard. Aren't you afraid of causing trouble? It's fine to wait a little before bringing it up. Old Master Zhou frowned. How is it fine? Old Mistress Zhou shouted. Don't tell me we have to wait another 2 or 3 years. Over the years, all the good people have been picked away by others. I want to force her so that she can forget the past as soon as possible. When she remarries and finds a considerate husband, she can quickly give birth to another child. Naturally, she will forget everything that happened in the past. If we allow her to let her imagination run wild at home, that would be terrible. Old Mistress Zhou spoke eloquently. It seemed to make some sense. Old Master Zhou didn't say anything and only sighed. But I think our daughter won't comply. You should talk to her nicely and let her slow down a little. Old Mistress Zhou snorted. Don't worry. When she has a good husband and good children in the future, she will naturally know that I'm doing this for her own good. If she's being difficult with me now, she will only know my painstaking efforts in the future. Zhou Jingyi's heart was in a mess and she couldn't calm down. Old Mistress Zhou was annoyed with her failure to live up to her expectations. She didn't come downstairs for 2 days, and she didn't even take the initiative to visit her. Zhou Jingyi was anxious, afraid that she would really go to find a marriage partner for her. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. Early in the morning, she dressed up and rushed to the upper room to pay her respects. Old Mistress Zhou heard a servant report. Miss is here. She couldn't help but smile, and ordered the servant to let her in. She knew that she was just a child. Since she didn't pay attention to her, she felt that it was meaningless for her to make a fuss for 2 days. Who knew that when Zhou Jingyi arrived, the mother and daughter were talking nicely at first. But when Zhou Jingyi changed the topic and brought up the issue of marriage, the two of them immediately quarreled again. One was annoyed at her daughter's disobedience and refused to back down. The other was annoyed at her mother for being unreasonable and refused to comply. The mother and daughter quarreled more and more, each feeling wronged and couldn't help but cry. Old Mistress Zhou's pity and anger made her speak more and more angrily. She said that there was no need to wait until after the new year, and they should settle the marriage before the new year. It was better to let her give up early. Zhou Jingyi's heart was in great pain, and she couldn't help but cry. In her sadness, she pulled out the golden hairpin and threw it on the ground. She found a pair of scissors and held a strand of her glossy black hair in her hands. She would rather be a sister-in-law than marry. The servants were so frightened that they rushed forward and grabbed the scissors to stop her, and helped her tie up her hair. Mother, I've made up my mind, don't force me. I can live well on my own really. Mother, I beg you, don't force me anymore. I will never get into the sedan chair again. Zhou Jingyi let the crowd take the scissors away and cried to Old Mistress Zhou. Chapter 284. Old Mistress Zhou was also shocked by her. When she regained her senses and saw her determined expression, she knew that she had made up her mind. If she didn't listen to her, she might cause more trouble. She had been stubborn since she was young. She could stop her for a while, but not forever. Old Mistress Zhou's heart turned to ashes as she thought about it. Too lazy to change her mind, she covered her face and wiped her tears. Forget it, forget it. As a mother, I'm doing this for your own good. It's not my intention to make you seek death. Let's not talk about this for now. We'll talk about it after the new year. If you still refuse to budge by then, we won't talk about it anymore. Don't make a fuss with me. You're stabbing me in the heart with a knife. Her words made Zhou Jingyi sad again. She couldn't help but call out mother, and lay in her arms. Both mother and daughter cried bitterly. The Zhou family was fine for the time being. In the Shi family, Shi Fengming's illness was improving day by day according to plan. His condition was under control, and after 5 to 6 days, he could barely get out of bed and walk around. Ever since Zhou Jingyi left, he never drank the disgusting medicine again. Xiao Cui brought it over as usual, and he passed it out without anyone noticing. But every time he would inadvertently think of her. He would think of her quietly standing by the side, watching him drink the medicine with a pair of bright eyes. That woman had become a nightmare that he could not shake off. Thinking about it made his heart sour. Second old mistress sure was in high spirits. She would visit him from time to time and couldn't help but introduce suitable ladies to him, describing them as fairies from the 9 heavens. Sure, Fengming was absent-minded. How could he be interested? Finally, he couldn't help but say, "Mother, can you stop? You've just divorced, and you're already in a hurry to find a woman. Isn't it a little too fast?" Fast? What's fast? Isn't it better to prepare early than to be flustered when the time comes? Second old mistress sure sneered. And you say we're fast? They're even faster than us. What do you mean? Sure, Fengming suddenly had a bad feeling. You've been recuperating in this courtyard every day, of course you wouldn't know, second old mistress sure said with disdain. Isn't it because of the Zhou family? I heard that the couple was busy finding a woman for Zhou. Humph, how shameless. She had just left her husband's family, and was in a hurry to remarry. But thinking about it, if we don't hurry up, who would fancy her in a year or two? Sure, Fengming was stunned. At that moment, his heart seemed to have stopped beating. What did mother say? She was going to marry again? She wanted to be someone's bride? Sure, Fengming suddenly felt a little sour and annoyed. He didn't have any such thoughts, but she couldn't wait to get married? Sure, Fengming laughed at himself. He suddenly remembered that she had said that she liked him. When she was around, she took care of him so carefully. When she left, she was so sad. In fact, that was all. It turned out that it was a woman's nature to throw herself at another man in the blink of an eye, without exception. Well, since she was divorced, why couldn't she remarry? I seem to be a little angry. What am I angry about? This woman has no conscience. Don't be angry. It's not worth it. Second old mistress sure saw that his expression was a little ugly and snorted. They know how to search, so do we. Don't worry. I'll definitely find you someone who's 1,000 times better than her. Furthermore, I'll definitely hold the wedding ceremony before she gets married. I have to fight for this honor. Mother, I don't want to now. Let's talk about it later. Don't bother me with this. He didn't know why, but although he didn't agree with this matter before, he didn't reject it either. He had an indifferent attitude towards it, but at this moment, he really didn't like hearing her mention it. He didn't like it at all. That's good too. Mother will help you check it out first. Fengming, don't worry. If you don't agree this time, Mother won't force it on you. Second old mistress sure hurriedly added. Sure, Fengming couldn't be bothered to argue with her, and silently agreed. Second old mistress sure smiled and stood up. I see that your condition is slowly stabilizing. It's not right for you to stay in this remote courtyard alone. I'll get someone to tidy up the garden and throw away everything that shouldn't be there. Can you move back in a few days? There's no need. Sure, Fengming hurriedly said. Seeing that his mother was a little stunned, he let out a sigh of relief and said, I mean, why go through so much trouble? Don't the servants take care of it every day? I'll just move back directly. As for the things inside, don't touch them first. I'll take care of them myself. Hee, that's fine too. Second old mistress sure didn't mind and smiled. Then let's leave it at that for now. Second old mistress sure knew very well how much her son hated Zhou Jingyi. She didn't believe that her son would leave her things behind after she left. He must be afraid that he didn't clean it up thoroughly enough, right? Second old mistress sure thought so. It was fine if second old mistress sure didn't mention this matter. Once she did, sure Fengming couldn't stay in Bailuo Pavilion any longer, and was filled with thoughts of returning to Xiu Garden. That afternoon, he moved back to Xiu Garden. Things were the same, but the people were different. It should be said that the things were the same, but the 3 people who were supposed to be there were missing. Zhou Jingyi left with Su Qing and Su Bai. However, everything here still had traces of her aura and presence. Her favorite magnolia was planted in the courtyard. Her favorite spider plant was placed on the flower rack in front of the moon window. On the Kong bed in the warm room, there was a half-finished needle and thread radish. Inside the needle and thread was an unfinished lotus-colored handkerchief. On the soft couch, There was the embroidered blanket that she used to lie down and cover herself with. The bedroom was decorated according to her preferences. In front of the dressing table, there was a white jade flat box with the rouge and powder she used before. The white jade comb with flowers and birds carved on the spine was even wrapped with her hair that had fallen off. Shi Fengming slowly scanned the room and imagined her life here. Amidst all these beautiful things, she must be lonely, right? His heart suddenly felt a dull pain and was filled with unspeakable guilt. He suddenly remembered what his sister-in-law had said before. She was innocent, yet she had to bear all these things that she shouldn't have to bear. He had always scoffed at that sentence, but now that he thought about it, he felt that it made some sense. He unconsciously reached out and gently picked up the white jade comb. It was made of high-quality white jade, smooth and delicate, warm and unparalleled. Holding it in his hand, he felt a slight coolness. Her jet-black hair was wrapped around it, and the black and white were so distinct. Shi Fengming's other hand gently brushed her hair. It was soft and gentle. It seemed that this was the first time he had touched her hair like this. But it was her hair that had fallen off. Shi Fengming sighed and put the white jade comb down again. He turned and left, standing in the corridor with his hands behind his back, lost in thought. This was his courtyard. In the future, when he married another woman, it would also be that woman's courtyard. What about her? All traces of her would soon be wiped clean. In a few years, other than the servants occasionally mentioning her behind others' backs, no one would remember her. They would remember that this residence once had a mistress like her. This was a matter of course, but as Shi Fengming thought about it, he felt a little scared and unwilling. He didn't want her traces to disappear. Suddenly, he felt that his thoughts were very laughable and boring, but he just had to think this way. Shi Fengming's expression changed unpredictably. He stomped his feet and hurried out of the door in the direction of Ning Garden. Shi Fengju had not returned yet. When Sangwon heard that second young master had come, she unconsciously frowned. Although Zhou Jingyi's matter had nothing to do with her, she was still somewhat dissatisfied with Shi Fengming. So what if she was dissatisfied? No matter how dissatisfied she was, he was still her brother-in-law. Sangwon could only invite him in. Shi Fengming had just asked someone to inform him, but he regretted it in his heart. Seeing that a servant had come out to invite him in, he could only go in. Why isn't Big Brother back yet? Shi Fengming smiled unnaturally. Sangwon smiled and said, "It's still a little early. He should be back in about an hour. Is second young master looking for him for something?" "Nothing." Shi Fengming smiled and said, "It's just that I haven't seen Big Brother for a long time and wanted to talk to him." Sangwon nodded her head with an, "Oh," and did not say anything else. Shi Fengming sat for a while and felt bored, so he got up to leave. Sangwon did not ask him to stay. She only smiled and said, "When Fengju comes back, I'll tell him. Let him look for you." "Thank you, sister-in-law." Shi Fengming nodded and smiled absent-mindedly. When Shi Fengju came back, he changed his clothes and went to Xiao Garden. Shi Fengming was in a daze on the Kong bed in the warm room with his legs stretched out. He held a book in his hands and his eyes were staring straight at the pages. No one knew what he was looking at. The servants were all holding their breaths as they waited outside. The house and courtyard were completely silent. Second young master had a bad temper, so the servants in Xiao Garden were also very obedient. "You've moved back?" "I thought so. It must have been hard on you to endure being alone there for so long." Shi Fengju came in with a smile. "Big brother." Shi Fengming threw the book in his hand and sat up with a smile. "Big brother, please have a seat." "Why did you look for me today?" Shi Fengju smiled and sat down. Shi Fengming hesitated for a moment and shook his head with a smile. "Nothing much. I was just bored and wanted to talk to Big Brother. I forgot that Big Brother is a very busy person," he said with a hint of self-mockery. Shi Fengju smiled and said, "I think you've gotten sick from being too idle. When second uncle and second aunt get married for you, don't be so muddle-headed. Come with me to the shop." When Shi Fengming heard him say this, his face fell. He turned his head and said, "Why do you all always want me to get married? I won't. It'll be troublesome if I do. I'm fine like this now. I'm relaxed and carefree." Shi Fengming thought that his words were natural and unrestrained, But Shi Fengju could clearly hear the resentment and jealousy in his tone. Shi Fengju could not help but roll his eyes at him and thought to himself, "You're just pretending all you want." Shi Fengju said in astonishment, "What are you saying? How old are you? How can you say such things in a fit of pique? It's fine if you complain to me, but if you have the ability, go to second uncle and second aunt and tell them. Second aunt will definitely make a big fuss. Big brother, you mustn't say anything in front of my mother." Shi Fengming immediately became anxious. His mother had been happily nagging him about marriage these past few days. She nagged him so much that he was annoyed. If she knew about this, then she really didn't need to live anymore. Chapter 285. I'm not that bored. Is it good to make a mess in the house? Shi Fengju smiled and said, "You've finally divorced. You should be happy now that you've won, right? Why do I see that you still look so glum? Is it because you lack someone to serve you? You can choose any of the servants in the residence. If you still don't like them, you can ask the middleman to bring a better one. It's just a matter of spending a little money." "Forget it." Shi Fengming shook his head and said listlessly, "I'm not in the mood for that now. Let's talk about it after I get married. Actually, it's just like that. This time, I'll marry an honest and well-behaved one. It's best if she doesn't talk too much. I'll just make do with it." Shi Fengju stared at him silently and said, "What's wrong with you? Previously, you've been hoping for sister-in-law to leave. You even pretended to be terminally ill. Now that you've fulfilled your wish, you look like you've suffered a blow. Who provoked you?" Shi Fengming didn't answer. Shi Fengju said, "I can't bear to part with sister-in-law." "Who said so?" Shi Fengming was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He almost jumped up and immediately retorted, "I was wrong. I thought so too." Shi Fengju smiled and nodded. Shi Fengming, on the other hand, was no longer calm. His eyes darted around as he looked at his elder brother. After looking at him for a long time, he saw that his elder brother did not react, and did not ask him anything. He mumbled, Shi Fengming, I'm not at the stage where I would belittle myself. Why would I want her? She's already looking for someone to marry her, and is preparing to get married again." "Who did you hear this from?" Shi Fengju was very surprised. "My mother said it. How could it be false?" Shi Fengming's heart skipped a beat halfway through his words. He didn't like Zhou Jingyi. His mother disliked her even more than he did. Could his mother's words be true? At first, he was only angry and resentful, and didn't have time to think about it. Now he couldn't help but feel suspicious. Shi Fengju shook his head and said, "I don't think so." When sister-in-law left the residence that day, she cried so much that she almost lost her breath and couldn't walk. Logically speaking, she shouldn't have thought of getting married so quickly. However, it was hard to say. Even if she doesn't have the heart to do so, Lord Zhou and Madame Zhou love their daughter dearly, so they will definitely make plans for her. Shi Fengming's chest felt a little stuffy. There was a dull pain in the stuffiness, causing his breathing to tighten. It was extremely uncomfortable. Did she cry very badly that day? Shi Fengming knew that he should not ask, and that he was in no position to ask, but he could not help but ask. Sure enough, Shi Fengju glanced at him and said, "What's the point of asking? Don't blame me for not reminding you. The divorce letter is real. She has nothing to do with you now, and it's impossible for you to meet again in the future. Even if we meet again, she'll be someone else's wife." Shi Fengming's heart suddenly hurt. He did not speak for a long time. He only felt sour and astringent, and an indescribable sense of disappointment and discomfort. Actually, she really didn't hate her that much. She was the one who had always treated her as an enemy and didn't like her. "Well, if there's nothing else, I'm going back." Shi Fengju saw how stubborn he was and didn't want to continue arguing with him. Just let him torment himself. In any case, the matter had already reached this point. There was no point in saying more. Shi Fengming heard that there seemed to be a hint of impatience in his tone, and his heart felt slightly sour. He humphed and said, "Big brother is in a hurry to go back and have a meal with sister-in-law? When did big brother become so inseparable from sister-in-law?" Shi Fengju said, "Otherwise, what am I doing here?" Shi Fengming said, "Big brother, stay and have a meal with me tonight. It seems that we brothers haven't drunk and chatted together in a long time." Shi Fengju was somewhat hesitant, so Shi Fengming said, "Big brother, don't tell me you dislike my illness? Or are you afraid that sister-in-law will be angry?" "What nonsense are you talking about? Your sister-in-law isn't that kind of person." Shi Fengju saw that his mood was gloomy, so he nodded and said, "Okay, then I'll stay and accompany you." As he spoke, he called for a servant to go to Ning Garden and inform the kitchen to prepare dishes. Shi Fengming was happy and called for someone to bring wine. When the servants in the garden heard that the second young master wanted to drink wine, they were all shocked. They thought to themselves, how could he drink wine when he had just recovered from a serious illness? If second old mistress finds out, none of us will be able to live anymore. They braced themselves and tried to persuade him. Shi Fengming immediately threw a tantrum, and Shi Fengju said faintly, "If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. Bring the wine up." Only then did the servants leave. Although Shi Fengju's words were said, they did not dare to take them seriously. They secretly went to report to second old mistress, and after receiving second old mistress's approval, they calmed down and did as they were told. In a short while, the wine and dishes were served. Shi Fengming raised his cup and repeatedly invited others. Shi Fengju shook his head and looked at him, but he continued to accompany him silently. When he was half drunk, Shi Fengming began to talk nonsense. As he spoke, he talked about Zhou Jingyi, and under the influence of alcohol, he finally revealed his thoughts. Usually, he did not have many tricks up his sleeves, but this time, he was suddenly deep in thought. Even Shi Fengju felt a little dizzy because of him. Those roundabout words made him ponder for a while before he understood what he was trying to say. Looking at Shi Fengming, who was sitting opposite him with half-drunk eyes and looking at him with a little bit of nervousness and anticipation, Shi Fengju felt both angry and amused. He said, "It's just a small matter. Do you have to beat around the bush? Since you regret it, just go and ask for her hand in marriage again." Shi Fengming had asked him to expose the thoughts hidden under the layer of gauze in his heart. For a moment he didn't care about being embarrassed and said, "But my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and brother-in-law hate me so much. They won't agree. If I go to their door, I'm afraid I'll be beaten up before I can say anything." Shi Fengju thought to himself, "Who asked you to be so ruthless before? You didn't even leave yourself a way out. Now that you can't find a way out, you deserve it. Even if they beat you up, you still have to bear with it. Once they've vented their anger, you'll naturally have a chance to speak." Shi Fengju said, "No matter what, if sister-in-law still marries you, it's better than finding another man. I don't know if Lord Zhou and Madame Zhou are afraid that she'll be bullied by you in the future and refuse to believe you. That'll be troublesome." This was exactly what Shi Fengming was worried about. He hurriedly said, "I think so too. If they refuse to believe me, what should I do?" Shi Fengju sighed and said, "There's no other way. You can only perform well and let them see your sincerity. And sister-in-law, if she's willing to come back with you, I'm sure Lord Zhou and Madame Zhou won't be able to persuade their daughter." Shi Fengming thought about it and felt that it made sense. He said, "As long as I see Jingyi first, everything will be easy to talk about, right? My father-in-law and mother-in-law have always doted on her. Her words are much more effective than mine." "Nonsense." Shi Fengju was so angry that he laughed. He said, "Don't even think about seeing sister-in-law before you go and ask for forgiveness. Do you think you can enter the Zhou family's inner residence as you wish? Are you the one who does things like climbing walls? If the Zhou family finds out, it's not impossible for them to beat you up and sue the authorities. At that time, things will only get worse. You're the one who made this mess. If you want to redeem yourself, you'll definitely have to suffer. Don't think too much." Shi Fengming thought about it and suddenly felt depressed. Big brother was right. How could the walls of the Zhou family's inner residence be so easy to climb? Moreover, if Jingyi didn't pay any attention to him and instead screamed, things would be even worse. "Big brother, why don't you accompany me to the Zhou family? Is that okay?" Shi Fengming looked at Shi Fengju pitifully. "Big brother, I don't dare to go alone. His brother-in-law would definitely beat him up." Last time, Jingyi helped him stop him. This time, he went to express his goodwill. Of course, he couldn't fight with him. He couldn't even hide. What if he didn't know how to stop when he started fighting? Thinking of his brother-in-law, Shi Fengming felt his scalp go numb. With his big brother around, he could at least persuade him from the side. You really? Shi Fengju didn't know what to say. Since the words had already left his mouth, Shi Fengming didn't care about being embarrassed anymore. He smiled obsequiously and said, Big brother, please help me. Can you bear to see me get beaten up? Shi Fengju looked at him suspiciously and said, What else happened that I don't know about? How can you be so sure that the Zhou family will beat you up? Lord Zhou and young Master Zhou are gentle and refined. Although Madame Zhou is a bit shrewish, she won't beat people up. Why do you think so? Shi Fengming knew that he couldn't hide anything from his big brother in front of him. He lowered his head to avoid his gaze, and could only mumble about what happened that day in Bailuo Pavilion. Shi Fengju frowned and reprimanded. I really don't know what to say about you. Why do you keep doing these unreliable things? You're so happy just because you're angry. Don't you think about the consequences? Shi Fengming hurriedly apologized with a good temper. Shi Fengju's eyes suddenly brightened. He stared at him and said seriously, I think you should calm down first and think about it for a few days. After you've thought it through, you can decide whether to go to the Zhou family or not. Big brother. Don't interrupt. Who knows if you're just being impulsive again? Shi Fengju said unhappily. If you go back to your old ways after you bring sister-in-law back and cause trouble in the future, even I won't have the face to see the Zhou family anymore. Think about it again. Big brother, I'm serious. I'm really serious. How could Shi Fengming wait? He hurriedly said. I promise you that if Jingyi comes back with me, I won't let her down again. If I wait any longer, and she really decides to marry someone else, what should I do? Isn't that? Shi Fengju said. If that's the case, then I can only say that you're not fated to be with her. You should give up. Besides, if she really wants to marry someone else, do you think the Zhou family will care about you even if you go now? Think about it carefully. I'll send someone to inquire about this matter. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Shi Fengming wanted to say more, but Shi Fengju said bluntly, Why are you in such a hurry? What did you do before? His words made him unable to say anything else. He could only sullenly do as he was told. Shi Fengming waited for 3 days like a cat scratching at his heart. He couldn't wait any longer, and ran to Ning Garden to stop Shi Fengju. Shi Fengju saw that he was indeed anxious, and could only agree to go to the Zhou family tomorrow. Shi Fengming was relieved. He grinned and hurriedly asked if Zhou Jingyi's remarriage was true. Chapter 286. Shi Fengju thought for a moment and said, It's half true and half false. At first, Mistress Zhou did ask someone to help for a while, but then she suddenly stopped. Anyway, you can rest assured about this matter for now. Shi Fengming was stunned inside. I know why. It must be because Jingyi is unwilling. Big brother, Jingyi must still be thinking of me in her heart. Shi Fengju looked at him and said, Perhaps. I'm afraid that Lord Zhou and Mistress Zhou will be very angry because of this. I'm afraid you'll have to suffer more tomorrow. Be mentally prepared. Shi Fengju patted his shoulder as he spoke. Shi Fengming stiffened and his face turned pale. He was very dissatisfied and thought to himself, You should be mentally prepared too. Cousin Gu is still in our residence eyeing us covetously. The next day, the two brothers rode their horses and rushed to Zhou residence with 3 or 4 of their trusted servants. When they arrived at the entrance, Shi Fengming, who had been nervous all the way, almost lost his balance. He looked at Shi Fengju for help, but Shi Fengju smiled faintly and calmly. Shi Fengming gritted his teeth and could only go forward and knock on the door. The gatekeeper did not recognize him. He sized him up and asked politely with a smile, May I ask who young master is? What business do you have in our residence? Shi Fengming coughed and said, The Shi family of Qingzhou requests an audience. Is your lord in Qingzhou Shi family? This gatekeeper was quite clever. He was startled for a moment before his eyes suddenly lit up. He said, You are our young Mrs. Son-in-law. Shi Fengming's words were vague. He said that he wanted to see Lord Zhou, because he knew that Lord Zhou was easy to talk to. Who knew that this gatekeeper would be so clever and immediately pointed out his identity. Of course he could not hide it and could only say, "Yes, quickly go and report." "You please wait a moment." The gatekeeper was very surprised and quickly ran back to report. Coincidentally, Lord Zhou and his son were both not in today, so only Mistress Zhou was in charge. When Mistress Zhou heard that someone from the Shi family had come, the anger in her heart surged. She carefully asked about the appearance of the person who came, and found that he did not look like a servant. She thought to herself, who would have thought that Shi Fengming would be so bold as to come knocking on her door? He thought that Shi Fengju's visit was most likely related to his family's business with the Shi family, so he nodded and invited him in. When Fengming and Shi Fengju appeared in front of her, Madame Zhou was stunned. Her face immediately darkened. She pointed at Shi Fengming and shouted, "Why did you let this person in? Men, throw him out. Get a rag and wipe the floor." "Mother-in-law." Shi Fengming panicked. "Shut up." Old Mistress Zhou shouted and sneered, "Second young master Shi, who are you calling mother-in-law? Our Zhou family has nothing to do with you. Who is your mother-in-law? The Zhou family doesn't welcome you. Get out. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving you face." Madame Zhou thought about how her daughter had been stripping herself of all her adornments, wearing plain clothes and no longer touched meat or fish in her meals. It was obvious that she had sworn to become a monk. Her heart ached and she felt helpless. Rizhong felt uneasy. When he saw Shi Fengming, his eyes were about to spit fire. "Young Master Shi, my master and my son are out. If you have anything to say, I'll tell them to look for you. Forgive me for not being able to entertain you. Young Master Shi, please go back." Madame Zhou was quite lively with Shi Fengju. She turned to Shi Fengming and said fiercely, "Why aren't you getting out? Why are you still standing here? Don't think that I don't dare to hit you." "Madame Zhou, actually, I'm here with my second brother to apologize to Madame Zhou and Master Zhou. There's no other reason. On account of my second brother's sincerity, Madame Zhou, why don't you let him finish his words?" Shi Fengju hurriedly said with a smile. Madame Zhou sneered and raised her hand to stop him. "Young Master Shi, we can't accept your words. The past is the past, and our families have nothing to do with each other. What's there to apologize for? Hurry up and leave. If you don't leave, don't blame me for being impolite. When the time comes and things get ugly, you asked for it. Don't blame me." "Mother-in-law." Shi Fengming took 2 steps forward and knelt down in front of Madame Zhou. "It was my fault for causing Jingyi to be wronged. Mother-in-law, please forgive me." A soft gasp could be heard in the hall. Madame Zhou was also stunned. Shi Fengming had always disliked their family and their daughter. It was normal for him to be sarcastic and not say a word with a cold face. He actually knelt down in front of her? Madame Zhou tilted her head to look at the nanny beside her and sneered. "Is there something wrong with my eyes and ears? Why did I see the second young master of the Shi family kneeling in front of me and calling me mother-in-law, and mother-in-law?" The nanny bowed and replied, "Madam, you didn't see or hear wrongly. The second young master of the Shi family did kneel in front of you and say that." "Is that so?" Madame Zhou sneered. "That's strange. The sun really rose from the west this time. I say, second young master of the Shi family, I don't dare to be called mother-in-law. Don't say that and ruin my daughter's reputation. Otherwise, my boss will give you a slap. You've wronged yourself today. What are you trying to do now? If you have something to say, just say it. If you're done, quickly get lost." "You." Shi Fengming had only said one word when he saw Madame Zhou's cold warning gaze. He changed his words abruptly and could only say, "Zhou madam, I'm here to bring Jingyi back. Everything that happened before was my fault. I will definitely treat Jingyi well from now on. I beg you to fulfill my wish." "What did you say?" Madame Zhou stood up immediately. Her face was tense due to anger and her face was snow-white. She said sternly, "Say it again." Shi Fengming was shocked by her anger, but he still braced himself and said it. Madame Zhou was so angry that her legs went soft, and she took a step back. She pointed at him and scolded, "Shi Fengming, you're shameless. Do you think our Zhou family is easy to bully? The black and white ink of the divorce agreement hasn't even dried yet, and you're here to say this? Do you think this is child's play? No matter how worthless my daughter is, she can't be teased by you over and over again. Come, throw him out. Madame Zhou. Shi Fengju hurriedly said. Madame Zhou, my second brother is sincerely remorseful. Madam, please give him another chance. Madame Zhou sneered and said to Shi Fengju. No. She raised her eyebrows and said. What are you waiting for? All the maidservants and grannies agreed and immediately swarmed over, pulling Shi Fengming in a flurry of hands and feet. Madame Zhou! Madame Zhou! Shi Fengming shouted anxiously. I'm serious, this is not child's play. I really regret it. I will treat Jingyi well in the future, Madame Zhou. Throw him out. Quickly throw him out. Madame Zhou was even more angry. She thought to herself, you regret it? If you regret it, we should regret it with you? My daughter finally escaped from the fire pit. Unless I'm stupid, I won't send her back. Shi Fengju was very calm. If this matter was too easy to settle, it would be abnormal. It was good to let him suffer a little. Wasn't it just throwing him out? It was already good enough that he didn't hit him. Cough! What are you doing? A dignified middle-aged man's voice sounded from the side. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked over. It was Lord Zhou and young Master Zhou. What a scandal! Leave now. Lord Zhou scolded, and all the maids and older female servants bowed their heads and left. Lord! Madame Zhou angrily stepped forward and said, This bastard! Shi Fengming. You still dare to come to our house. Only then did young Master Zhou see that the person being pushed by the maidservants was Shi Fengming. In a moment of anger he rushed forward and grabbed Shi Fengming's collar and said angrily, You bastard, you bullied my sister and broke her heart, yet you still dare to come here. I'll beat you to death. After saying that, he punched Shi Fengming's cheek. Shi Fengming closed his eyes and took the punch. It was so painful that the bones in his cheek were almost dislocated. Young Master Zhou saw that Shi Fengming didn't dodge or fight back. He was only stunned for a second and waved his fist again. Shi Fengming, don't think that I won't dare to beat you just because you don't fight back. I won't be able to vent my anger even if I beat you to death. This punch was stronger than before. Shi Fengming couldn't help but stagger backward. He groaned and a fishy taste welled up in his mouth. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Second brother. Shi Fengju hurriedly went forward to support him. He smiled bitterly at young Master Zhou and said, Young Master Zhou, no matter how bad my second brother is, your anger should have subsided by now, right? If you continue, he'll die. Only then did young Master Zhou see Shi Fengju. He stopped and said, Young Master Shi is also here. I'm not afraid to say it in front of you. This bastard won't be able to vent my anger even if I beat him to death. For your sake, I'll let him off for today. Let him get out of our residence and never appear in front of me again. Otherwise, I'll beat him up every time I see him. Brother-in-law. Shut up. Who are you calling brother-in-law? Young Master Zhou glared at him. He was even angrier than when Madame Zhou was called mother-in-law. Shi Fengming was so scared that he subconsciously hid behind Shi Fengju. He said, Young Master Zhou, I'm here to admit my guilt. If you're still angry, you can beat me a few more times. Let me see Jingyi. You still dare to mention my sister. Young Master Zhou was furious. He rushed over to pull him out and continue beating him. Shi Fengju hurriedly tried to persuade him. Madame Zhou, however, shouted from the side. My son is helping your sister vent her anger. Don't be polite to such a shameless person. Seeing this, Lord Zhou glared at her and hurriedly shouted, Stop! What are you doing? Young Master Zhou glared at Shi Fengming and retreated. However, his eyes were still staring at Shi Fengming. His face was cold, as if he was ready to pounce on Shi Fengming and beat him up again. He's a guest. Is this how you treat your guest? Since when did our Zhou family become so unruly? Lord Zhou glared at his wife and son. He then cupped his hands and smiled at Shi Fengju. My son is being rude. Young Master Shi, please don't lower yourself to his level. Shi Fengming secretly let out a sigh of relief. He thought to himself that Lord Zhou was the only reasonable person in the Zhou family. Shi Fengju, who knew Lord Zhou's character well, secretly cursed. He could only cup his hands and return the greeting. He smiled and said, "It was my second brother's fault. You can't blame young Master Zhou. This is what he deserves." Chapter 287. You can't say that. As old Master Zhou spoke, he gestured for them to take a seat and smiled faintly. Our two families have been business partners for many years. First young Master Shi and second young Master Shi are our guests, and our esteemed guests at that. If word of such neglect were to spread, it would be a laughing stock. Oh right, I haven't asked the two of you, why are you here? Shi Fengming stood up and bowed. You old Master Zhou, I've let Jingyi down previously. I've let her down. Please allow me to reconcile with her. From now on, I'll treat her well and will never let her suffer again. When old Mistress Zhou heard this, she was about to open her mouth, but was stopped by old Master Zhou's gaze. Old Master Zhou chuckled and said leisurely, "This matter has a divorce agreement, it's not a child's play. Second young Master Shi, my Jingyi will never return to your Shi family. Don't mention this matter again. If there's nothing else, please leave. Forgive me for not having time to entertain you." Old Master Zhou. Second young Master Shi. Old Master Zhou stared at Shi Fengming with a calm and serious gaze. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on him, causing him to hold his breath and feel a sense of awe. This kind of matter requires both parties to be willing. Now that our Zhou family's attitude is very clear, do you still want to continue pestering us? If you continue like this, it will make things difficult for us. You should go back. If this matter continues, there's no need for you to come again. There's no room for discussion. If you continue to pester us, our Zhou family will abide by the law, and will ask the authorities to settle this matter. Shi Fengming's expression changed, and he looked at old Master Zhou in disbelief. He looked like the easiest person to talk to, but in reality, he was the most difficult person to deal with. Although his mother-in-law and brother-in-law were angry, at least they showed that they cared. His father-in-law was so cold and indifferent. It was obvious that there was no room for discussion. Old Master Zhou, I'm sincerely changing for the better. Let me see Jingyi, maybe she. Haha, what you think is your business. Our Zhou family's decision is our business, don't you think so? As for meeting Jingyi, there are differences between men and women. Don't even think about it. She is the young miss of our family. Her maiden name is not something a man like you can call her by. Don't call her that again in the future. This old man's daughter is not someone to be taken advantage of by others. Lord Zhou's tone suddenly became fierce. We understand what old Master Zhou means. Shi Fengju saw that Shi Fengming still wanted to say something, so he hurriedly tugged at Shi Fengming's sleeve. He stood up and cupped his hands with a smile. We were rude today. We'll take our leave now. Please. Lord Zhou raised his hand and nodded slightly. Shi Fengju bade farewell to Madame Zhou and young Master Zhou, and left with Shi Fengming. Although Shi Fengming was unwilling, he could only follow him. Big brother, why did you pull me out? Shi Fengming raised his hand and gently touched the wound on the corner of his mouth. It was already red and swollen, and it hurt so much that he grimaced. What can you do if you don't come out? He's already made things so clear. Shi Fengju said. But I didn't take those 2 punches for nothing. Shi Fengming was not convinced. I took those 2 punches for nothing and was scolded. In the end, I was still chased out with my face covered in dirt. Shi Fengju then asked, do you still want to take sister-in-law back? Of course I do. Shi Fengming's spirit was lifted. He hurriedly said happily, Big brother, do you have a way? Quickly teach me. Shi Fengju said, there's no other way. You just have to make a few more trips. Shi Fengming was stunned. He said, but my father-in-law said that if I continue to pester her, he'll report it to the authorities. You even believe that? Shi Fengju said unhappily. That's what he said. It depends on whether you're sincere or not. You really won't pester her just because he said not to? Shi Fengming was momentarily confused. After a while he said, Big brother, do you mean that we'll visit her again tomorrow? Shi Fengju said, not us but yourself. Find an inn in this county town and stay there. As for what to do, you can decide for yourself. I have to go back. There's only one thing you have to remember. Don't do anything crooked. Don't even think about climbing the wall. Otherwise, it's really over. Shi Fengming listened for a long time without saying anything. Then he said, Big brother, you want to go back? I'm alone. He was still afraid. If his brother-in-law swung his fist again, there wouldn't even be anyone to help him stop it. Those people from the Zhou family really wanted to beat him up. Don't worry. He won't do it again tomorrow. Young Master Zhou isn't a fierce and aggressive person. Now you're the one begging him. If you don't lower yourself, you'll be expecting him to welcome you with open doors. I don't dare to think like that, Shi Fengming said self-deprecatingly. I'll thank the heavens if I can bring Jingyi back. He sighed and nodded. All right, big brother, you go back first. Help me keep it a secret from my parents. I'll inform them after I settle things here. Although Shi Fengju knew that this matter wasn't very reliable, and was even a little ridiculous, he reluctantly agreed when he saw that Shi Fengming was pitiful. He only said, I don't know how long this matter can be hidden. You have to hurry. After settling things here, I'm afraid that second aunt might not agree so easily. My mother is my mother after all. Big brother, don't worry. Shi Fengming didn't care at all. Shi Fengju glanced at him and thought that it was true. He could even elope with a prostitute and run away from home. What else wouldn't he do? Second aunt was frightened by him even if she wanted to. After the two brothers parted ways, Shi Fengming brought Shi Lu to stay in the county. Fortunately, he had the foresight to bring medicine to reduce swelling and bruising. It was ready to use. The next morning, Shi Fengming went to the Zhou family again with half of his face bruised. This time, he couldn't even enter the Zhou family's main door. He waited at the door for a long time. Seeing that it was already noon, his stomach was growling with hunger. He had no choice but to go back to eat. In the afternoon, he recuperated in the inn. On the morning of the third day, he went again. As usual, he was rejected at the door. This time he came prepared. In the afternoon, he took out 2 sesame seed cakes and ate them at the door. He continued to act as the Zhou family's doorman, causing the passers-by to take a few more glances at him. Fortunately, he still knew how to save some face for his family, and also for the Zhou family. He wore an ordinary long gown made of coarse cloth, and his hair was only tied up with a ribbon, without any jade or gold hairpin. At first glance, he looked like a down-and-out relative who had come to seek shelter, but had no connections. Otherwise, there would be more people looking at him. If someone recognized his identity, it would be a lively scene. Although the Zhou family had closed the door on him for the past 2 days, old Master Zhou and his wife were naturally aware of his every move outside. Today, someone reported that second young Master Shi was waiting at the door and didn't leave. He brought sesame seed cakes to eat. Old Master Zhou couldn't help but laugh out loud. He scolded with a smile. This bastard seems to be sincere. Umph. I don't believe it. Old Mistress Zhou said unhappily. We just got divorced and he changed so drastically in the blink of an eye. No matter how I look at it, it's strange. Old Master, why are you still bothering with him? Get someone to chase him away. Don't let the passers-by see him. It'll also make people feel vexed. The Shi family is really ruthless. As the young master of a big family, how could he do such a thing? Pooey. Old Master Zhou heard her and laughed. This shows that your daughter is outstanding. Isn't it good to make him change his mind? Sigh, old mistress, if he really changed, wouldn't it be good to treat Xiaoyi well in the future? If Xiaoyi doesn't want to marry again, she might still miss him. Are you really going to stop her and let her live the rest of her life in solitude? Old Mistress Zhou thought about it and couldn't help but cry. She said, How could I have the heart to do that? That child has been obedient since she was young. Ever since she could talk and walk, she would stick to me and act coquettishly. We mother and daughter are so close. I love her dearly and only wish for her well. I thought that the Shi family was a good marriage, but who knew that it would ruin her life? But she's so stubborn. Look at her these days. I've been angry and furious, but I just can't do anything to her. Do I feel good in my heart for a while? But it wasn't easy for me to leave that damned place. If I go back, What if there's a next time? Do you really want me to kill myself in front of the Sher family's house? Old Master Zhou couldn't help but sigh. His son had been learning to manage the business from him since he was young. Only his daughter stayed by his wife's side. In terms of closeness, he couldn't compare. He could also understand how sad his wife was when she saw that her daughter wasn't living well. But why don't we test him again? If he really changes, then we'll fulfill his wish. What do you think, old mistress? Old Mistress Zhou snorted. This matter isn't up to him to decide. We have to ask for my daughter's opinion. Old Master Zhou smiled and nodded. Of course. If my daughter isn't willing, of course we can't agree. He thought to himself, your daughter's thoughts are all written on her face. There's no need to ask. Old Mistress Zhou didn't say anything else. On the third day, the Zhou family's door finally opened. The person who walked out was young Master Zhou. Young Master Zhou hated Shi Fengming from the bottom of his heart. He was just a second-generation heir. Yet he dared to despise his younger sister. Moreover, he was a scoundrel. For the past 2 days, he had been blocking the main door. His father didn't allow him to chase him away or beat him up. Everyone in the residence, including him, could only enter and exit from the back door. He had been holding back his anger for a long time. Now that he opened the main door under his father's orders, the anger in his heart was still burning. Shi Fengming's eyes lit up when he saw him. He suddenly felt a sense of accomplishment as if the clouds had parted to see the moon. He quickly came over and smiled. Eldest cough, young Master Zhou. Young Master Zhou's expression was even uglier than old Mistress Zhou's. He glared at him hatefully and scolded. What are you doing here? Can't you read? This is our Zhou family's residence, not your Shi family's. Hurry up and go back to Qingzhou. Don't make a fool of yourself here. Shi Fengming didn't dare to expect anything good from him. Although he felt a little embarrassed, he didn't get angry or leave in a huff. He simply smiled shamelessly and said, Young Master Zhou, I'm here to seek an audience with Old Master Zhou and Old Mistress Zhou. I'm here to seek their forgiveness, and ask them to help me and Jingyi. Oh, and young Master Zhou, I also seek your forgiveness. Young Master Zhou sneered. Did you take the wrong medicine? Or have you changed your heart? My younger sister is an evil woman, a vicious woman. Shouldn't you be raising your cup to celebrate her leaving your family? You actually came here. Chapter 288. Shi Fengming cursed his bad luck in his heart. How could he have coincidentally overheard it at that time? Embarrassment appeared on his face and he apologized even more submissively. What I said earlier was an unintentional mistake. I spoke without thinking. Please forgive me, young Master Zhou. It's easy for you to say. Young Master Zhou said coldly. How dare you slander my sister in front of me? Who knows what you've done behind my back? My sister is such a good girl, but she was harmed by you. Now that she finally has a few days of peace, you came to cause trouble again. Shi Fengming immediately felt wronged and hurriedly said, that day was really just a coincidence. I didn't bully her behind her back. Didn't I just come back from outside and fall sick? How could I have the chance to bully her? No, I'm saying, I really didn't bully her. If you don't believe me, you can ask Su Qing and Su Bai. They are her personal servants, so they naturally know everything. It would have been better if Shi Fengming didn't mention this matter. Now that he did, young Master Zhou became even angrier. He glared at him with hatred, wishing he could tear him apart. His sister had just gotten married and was abandoned by him for 2 years. He still had the nerve to say this. You can leave. If you don't leave, I'll call someone to chase you away. Young Master Zhou couldn't swallow this anger. He immediately changed his father's words and decided to chase him away. Shi Fengming was anxious and hurriedly said, If you're still angry, just hit me a few more times. I really want to bring Jingyi back. Young Master Zhou, no matter how wrong I was in the past, it's all in the past. I will definitely treat Jingyi well in the future. I won't go back until I bring Jingyi back. You. Young Master Zhou raised his hand and wished he could hit Shi Fengming's face a few times. Seeing the bruises on his face, he tightly clenched his fist and could only put it down bitterly. Shi Fengming was already prepared to be beaten. Seeing his fist raised and put down, he secretly sighed in relief. Seeing that he was still angry and unwilling to let go, he thought to himself, forget it. Anyway, I've already come to this point. It's quite embarrassing for me to stay at the door every day and let the passers-by roll their eyes. Today I finally saw her, so I can't let her go in vain. In any case, he no longer had any image in the eyes of the Zhou clan, so he didn't care if he refreshed their bottom line again. Shi Fengming made up his mind and went forward to kneel in front of young Master Zhou. He pulled on his lapel and said, "Young Master Zhou, brother-in-law, please be merciful and do good. I only want Jing Yi as my wife in this lifetime. Give her back to me. I know she still misses me in her heart. Why do you have to separate us? You let go of me." Young Master Zhou did not expect that he would make such a move. He was caught unprepared and tried to break free in a flurry. When Shi Fengming saw that his cold and vicious brother-in-law's face actually showed a flustered and helpless expression, he suddenly felt a sense of relief in his heart. How could he be willing to let go? She was even more shameless, her hands tightly hugging his thighs, her mouth begging endlessly. Young Master Zhou was annoyed, amused, and helpless at the same time. There was nothing he could do about it. He stomped his foot and scolded, "If what you said is true, then it's our fault. You bastard, which part of you looks like a decent person? I don't know what kind of eyes that little sister of mine has for you. Get up. If you continue like this, I'm really going to call someone to beat you up." "Brother-in-law, shut up. Let go." Young Master Zhou. How could Shi Fengming be willing to let go? Young Master Zhou was helpless. He sneered and said, "My father is waiting in the residence. It's up to you whether you want to go or not." Shi Fengming's eyes lit up. In surprise, he subconsciously loosened his grip. Young Master Zhou retracted his leg and took a few steps back. He said coldly, "Come in with me." "Okay." Shi Fengming smiled. Under the disdainful gaze of young Master Zhou's manservant, he got up from the ground. He brushed the hem of his robe that was stained with some mud and hurriedly followed young Master Zhou in. After walking for a while, they arrived at a courtyard. Young Master Zhou stopped in his tracks. With his back facing Shi Fengming, he said coldly, "I don't know if my father is free right now. You can wait here." "Okay, then I'll wait." Shi Fengming's scalp was a little numb. His heart was a little anxious. He knew that his father-in-law would not let him off so easily. Young Master Zhou was thinking about his father's instructions. If he wants to wait, then bring him in to wait. Otherwise, he'll bring shame to our Zhou family by staying at the door. Young Master Zhou continued to walk away. Shi Fengming could only stand there. The people in the residence came and went. They could not help but take a few glances at him. Shi Fengming was helpless. He could only brace himself and endure. He secretly mocked himself in his heart. As the son-in-law of the Zhou family, he had completely lost all his face. It would be better if he did not come in the future. It was too embarrassing. Shi Fengming waited until night fell. There were even more servants coming and going. However, not a single one stopped by his side to greet him. The masters of the Zhou family had completely forgotten about him. His stomach was growling from hunger. His legs and waist were sore, but he still had to endure it. "Old master, if he continues to stand like this, he'll be tormented. I think we should just forget about it." On the contrary, it was old Mistress Zhou who could not hold herself back and said, "Soft-hearted." Old Master Zhou said, "Don't worry. If he can't even endure this bit of hardship, how can he be considered sincere? Let's leave him hanging first. We'll talk about it tomorrow." Old Mistress Zhou moved her lips and closed them. Old Master Zhou instructed someone to bring him to the guest room when night fell. After thinking for a while, he said, "When the time comes, let the maidservant by young mistress' side know something." The servant was stunned. He secretly glanced at old Mistress Zhou. Seeing that she did not object, he bowed and left. Ai. Old Mistress Zhou let out a long sigh. Her heart was filled with both joy and worry. As a mother, she naturally did not wish for her daughter to live a miserable life. However, letting her follow that bastard back to the Shi family, was it really good for her? "I think this brat has some sincerity this time. Don't worry too much. If he returns to his old ways in the future, if we can get our daughter back once, there will naturally be a second time. Old Master Zhou sighed and said. Old Mistress Zhou nodded. Old Master is right. In any case, I won't watch my daughter suffer. The night was shrouded and the sky was completely dark. Not far away, there were two sparse yellow lights. There was no moon and the stars were not bright. Everything around was immersed in the darkness of the night. When the wind blew, the shadows flickered and swayed. This was in someone else's residence. Although it was not to the extent of being afraid, it still felt desolate and cold for no reason. What was worse was that his entire body was sore and his stomach was rumbling with hunger. Shi Fengming bent down and rubbed his sore calves. He wished he could sit on the ground, but after thinking about it he did not dare to. He regretted in his heart. He regretted following young Master Zhou into the residence. If he waited outside the residence at this time, at least he could buy something to eat when he was hungry and sit on the ground when he was tired, right? Here it was really his eyes lit up. It was an old woman standing in front of him with a lantern. Shi Fengming's spirit was lifted, and he hurriedly smiled at her kindly. The old woman's eyes did not look at him. She lowered her head and bowed slightly, saying, It's already late today. Old Master said that he would see young Master again tomorrow. Young Master, please follow me to the guest room for the night. Shi Fengming opened his mouth. He really wanted to ask if there was anything to eat, but in the end he did not dare to ask. He nodded and raised his hand, saying, I'll have to trouble Mama to lead the way. The old woman did not waste time talking nonsense with him. She nodded and led the way. After a while she led him to a room. She looked inside and said, This is the place. The water to wash your face has already been prepared. Young Master, rest early. Don't wander around the residence. Thank you. Shi Fengming agreed sullenly. He pushed the door and entered with a glimmer of hope. He scanned his surroundings and was disappointed. There was really no food, not even tea. There was only a basin of steaming hot water to wash his face with a towel. Shi Fengming laughed at himself. Big Brother said that he was begging for help now, so he had to show his sincerity and attitude. So if there was no food, then there was no food. This was also a test. He would not die from hunger for half a day and a night. However, his stomach was really hungry. It was better to quickly wash his face and go to bed. When Su Qing heard the news, she was hesitant about whether she should tell her young miss. She knew her young miss's thoughts the best. Being willing to shave her hair and become a sister-in-law was not her original intention. Even if she was wearing plain clothes and eating vegetarian food, she had to act in front of Old Master and Madam. She knew that her young miss was still thinking about that scoundrel of a son-in-law. Now that the son-in-law had come begging, if he could reconcile with her young miss would definitely be willing. However, who knew what the son-in-law's intentions were? If he were to cause trouble again in the future, her young miss's life would definitely be ruined by his hands. What's wrong with you? You look absent-minded. Zhou Jinyi sat at the table and drank tea. She asked faintly, Did you hear some gossip again? Her parents doted on her, and her brothers and sisters-in-law pitied her. However, in the end, she was still a great aunt who had returned to her maternal family in disgrace and refused to marry again. There were always people in the residence who gossiped behind her back. If they were not making malicious guesses, they would make up jokes to make fun of her. Su Qing and Su Bai had unintentionally heard about it 2 or 3 times before, and were so angry that they quarreled with them. They came back to complain tearfully to her, but she suppressed it and did not allow it to reach her parents, brothers and sisters-in-law's ears. To her, she didn't care about gossip and gossips for a long time. It was just a passing cloud. No, it couldn't even be called a passing cloud. Su Qing clenched her teeth and knelt down in front of her. Young miss, there is something this servant thought it would be best to tell young miss. If it's just some gossip you heard from somewhere, then forget it. Zhou Jinyi faintly smiled. No, Su Qing raised her head and said, The son-in-law is here. Zhou Jinyi was startled and stood up. What did you say? Who is here? Young miss. Su Qing quickly stood up and helped her sit down. She then told Zhou Jinyi everything she had heard. I heard that the son-in-law came 3 days ago and was kicked out by Old Master, Madam, and eldest young master. These past 2 days. Where did you hear this gossip? Don't try to deceive me. Zhou Jinyi's heart was in a mess as her hands unconsciously twisted the handkerchief in her hands. Chapter 289. He's here? Apologizing to her parents? Wanting to take her back? He said he regretted it. Zhou Jinyi couldn't help but raise her hand to support her forehead. She suddenly felt that her heart was beating very fast, and her body was weak. Young miss, I heard that young master stood in the courtyard for half a day waiting for old master and madam to summon him. Old master and madam didn't see him, and then directly asked someone to lead him to the guest room to rest. Young master didn't eat anything for half a day, and didn't even take a sip of tea. Su Qing said softly. Zhou Jinyi laughed and said, that can't be right. With his temper, how could he bear it if that was the case? I'm afraid he would have already quarreled with my parents. Even if he didn't, he would have already left in a huff. If he wanted to leave, who would dare to stop him? It's true, it's from madam's maid. Su Qing said, 3 days ago, young master hit young master. Young master didn't fight back and only asked old master and madam to allow him to see you. But how could old master and madam agree? Big brother hit him again. Zhou Jinyi was even more shocked and couldn't help but feel a little distressed. She couldn't help but look at Su Qing. So many things have happened and we don't know anything about it. Su Qing lowered her head and didn't dare to make a sound. Zhou Jinyi thought about it for a while and understood a little. If her parents wanted to hide something from her, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? And now that Su Qing could hear the news, did it mean that Zhou Jinyi's heart skipped a beat, and her face became slightly hot. That man that she loved and hated, she didn't expect him to come to her door. He must be sincere at this moment, but she didn't know how long this sincerity would last. Thinking about how he treated her before, it was impossible to say that she didn't have any resentment or grievance in her heart. Since father and mother have arranged it this way, we'll just listen and forget about it. Alright, get some water, I want to wash my face. Let's rest, Zhou Jinyi said as she pushed the teacup gently. Young miss. Su Qing was a little surprised and quickly asked, young master. Don't worry about him. Zhou Jinyi said again with a faint displeasure in her voice. Yes. Su Qing respectfully complied, and went to ask the maidservant for hot water and towels. After helping Zhou Jinyi wash up, the master and servant went to sleep. This night was destined to be a sleepless night for both of them. However, one of them was so hungry that her stomach was burning with fire, and the other was alternating between joy and sadness, and was unable to fall asleep due to confusion. Finally, the sky began to brighten. The long night was finally over. Both of them heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. Zhou Jinyi woke up early in the morning. Su Qing was still sleepy when she was woken up by her. She asked in a daze, Miss, why are you up so early today? However, Zhou Jinyi's glare startled her out of her sleepiness, and she quickly replied, this servant will help young miss get dressed. Once she was done packing, Zhou Jinyi left the house and walked towards the garden. Before she knew it, she had reached the area near the guest room. At this time, Su Qing finally understood. The young miss's heart was still thinking about the young master, but she was unwilling to admit it. When had Shi Fengming ever tasted hunger since he was young? Seeing that the sky was bright, he hurriedly got up. Thinking that it was still early, he thought it would be good to sneak some food into the kitchen. If he waited for another day with an empty stomach, he would definitely lose half his life. Shi Fengming had just left the room when he saw a familiar figure among the hibiscus flowers not far away. She was dressed in lilac clothes and had her hair combed. There were only 2 or 3 jade hairpins and silver hairpins on her hair. Her entire body was simple and clean. Standing among the flowers, her figure appeared even more delicate. Who else could it be but his second young mistress? Shi Fengming was overjoyed and hurriedly walked towards her. Zhou Jinyi turned around and looked up. She also saw him. Their eyes met and he smiled at her. Zhou Jinyi's heart ached, and she turned around to leave. Jinyi. Shi Fengming was anxious. He rushed forward and grabbed her arm. Jinyi, I finally see you. Zhou Jinyi's body stiffened, but she still did not turn around. After a while she said, why are you here? Shi Fengming glanced at Su Qing. Su Qing curtsied and silently retreated. Shi Fengming held her slightly cold hand instead. Jingyi, come back with me, okay? We can start over. Zhou Jingyi finally looked up at him and gently retracted her hand. Why? It wasn't easy for you to get rid of me. You should be very happy. Why do you want to start over? I don't need your guilt or sympathy. Second young master, you should go back. My parents and brother don't welcome you. Why do you have to suffer here? Shi Fengming smiled bitterly. Jingyi, I regret it. Can't you really forgive me? I will treat you well in the future. Like how big brother treats eldest sister-in-law. No, I will treat you better than how big brother treats eldest sister-in-law. Jingyi, can you really forget me? You said that you like me. That was in the past, Zhou Jingyi said. It doesn't matter if I forget you or not. I won't marry again in this life. Even if I remember you in my heart, I won't let my future husband down. Then come back with me. Shi Fengming put his hands on her shoulders. I also like you. Zhou Jingyi trembled violently and stared at him in disbelief. After he said this, a suspicious blush appeared on his face. He coughed and turned his face away. Jingyi, I will definitely treat you well in the future. I won't let you suffer any more grievances. I will compensate you for the grievances you suffered in the past, until you are satisfied. If you are still angry, why don't you hit me a few more times and scold me a few more times? Nonsense. Zhou Jingyi's eyes reddened. The grievances that she had accumulated for a long time poured out like a flood that opened the floodgates. Tears streamed down her face, and she couldn't help but lower her head and cover her face as she sobbed. Jingyi, don't cry, don't cry. At this moment, Shi Fengming really felt a faint pain in his heart. He gently hugged her in his arms and patted her trembling back to comfort her. This was the first time he hugged her so gently, spoke to her in such a gentle voice, and comforted her. This was something that she had hoped for countless times, thought about countless times, but was always disappointed. In the end, she didn't even dare to think about his gentleness, but she got it after their divorce. How ironic. Thinking about it, Zhou Jingyi felt even more sad and wronged. Previously, she was sobbing and holding it in, but now, she couldn't hold it in anymore. It could be said that she was crying out loud. As she cried, she complained intermittently. Shi Fengming couldn't hear what she was saying at all, but he could hear her grievances and sadness. He patted her back and hugged her even tighter. He kept comforting her gently, and coaxing her not to cry. He had never seen anyone cry so sadly. This cry made his heart ache for no reason. He wished that he could transfer all her sadness to her, and bear it for her. What's going on? My son, what's going on? Madame Zhou's scream was heard. Both of them were shocked. Jingyi, don't cry. Shi Fengming hurriedly wiped her tears and patted her back gently. Xiaoyi. Madame Zhou went forward and pulled her daughter over. Seeing that her face was full of tears, her eyes were red and swollen like peaches, and her expression was sorrowful, she couldn't help but feel distressed and angry. She glared at Shi Fengming hatefully. You scoundrel, we kindly let you stay here, but you bullied my daughter so early in the morning. Look at how she's crying. You scoundrel, haven't you hurt her enough? Do you have to make her cry herself to death in front of you before you're satisfied? Come, throw this scoundrel out. Mother-in-law. Shut up. Madame Zhou glared at him and said hatefully. Who's your mother-in-law? Don't call me that. Mother. Zhou Jingyi was only focused on venting just now and didn't expect to alarm her mother. For a moment, her cheeks flushed red, as if they were dyed red. Seeing that her mother was about to throw Shi Fengming out, she couldn't help but feel anxious again. Her gaze swept across the servants and she said in a low voice, I have something to say to my mother. All of you leave. What are you waiting for? Leave. Seeing this, the servants bowed and left. Madame Zhou said angrily, Xiao Yi, don't be coaxed by this scoundrel with just a few words. Humph, this person is very cunning. Today he's putting on an act, but who knows what he'll do in the future. Mother, you'd rather you become a monk and serve Buddha than be hurt by this scoundrel again. Become a monk. Shi Fengming's expression changed and he hurriedly said, Mother-in-law, Xiaoyi is still so young. How can you bear to force her to become a monk? Am I heartless or are you heartless? Madame Zhou glared at him and said hatefully, "How are your eyes? Can't you see that my daughter is wearing a plain dress? Humph, isn't it all because of you? She'd rather become a nun than marry again. And you're saying that I'm heartless. How can I not love my own daughter? It's all because of you." Jing. Shi Fengming's heart was filled with mixed feelings as he looked at Zhou Jingyi. Indeed, she was wearing a plain dress from head to toe. He didn't expect that she would go to this extent for him. If he didn't regret it and didn't come to beg her to change her mind, then wouldn't she really be accompanied by a lamp and Buddha for the rest of her life? Although he didn't know, this matter started because of him. He caused her to live a miserable life at such a young age. He was afraid that after she died, she would go to hell. "Mother-in-law." Shi Fengming knelt down in front of Madame Zhou. "Mother-in-law, please grant my wish. I want Jingyi to be my wife." Madame Zhou told him these words because she wanted him to remember Zhou Jingyi's kindness and to feel guilty in his heart. Seeing that her goal was achieved, she secretly heaved a sigh of relief and was somewhat satisfied. She coldly said, "Get up. Don't let others see and think that our Zhou family is bullying you. In the future, if Jingyi doesn't live well, I won't forgive you." When Shi Fengming heard that there was hope, he couldn't help but feel happy. He kowtowed a few times to thank Madame Zhou before he happily got up and glanced at Zhou Jingyi. Zhou Jingyi lowered her eyes slightly with a faint smile on her lips. "My husband and my son are in the hall. I'll ask someone to bring you over." Madame Zhou held Zhou Jingyi and lovingly wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. She gently said, "Good daughter, mother will accompany you back to your room to wash up. Look at you. Why are you like this so early in the morning?" "Mother, I'm fine." Zhou Jingyi's face was a little red. She bit her lips and said softly, "Fengming, he hasn't eaten yet." Chapter 290. Sangro was so scared that she wanted to commit suicide. She had no choice but to muster up her courage to beg her father. Ryo Kuwabara had always been dispensable to her. When he saw how she had bullied his sister, he did not have any good impression of her. Why would he bother with her? Instead, he reprimanded her for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Since ancient times, marriage was decided by the parents. How could she not know? Sangro was truly in despair. Unable to sleep that night, she sat alone under a tree in the courtyard, hugging her knees and crying silently. Who knew that she would discover a huge secret? She discovered the place where her father, Ryo Kuwabara, hid his gold and silver. It must be said that Ryo Kuwabara was also a weirdo. Afraid that someone would steal it, he actually buried all his gold and silver in the ground near the latrine. After he left, Sangro could not resist the temptation and quietly dug it up. Under the moonlight, the gold and silver shone brightly, almost making her dizzy. Sangro's heart thumped wildly. She stretched out her trembling hand and picked up an ingot of gold. Holding it in her hand, it was heavy and cold, but it shone brightly, as if it was telling her of endless temptation. The next day, Sangro was absent-minded for the entire day. Her mind was filled with those gold and silver. That was a lot. She had never seen so much money in her life. With this money, she would not have to worry about her life. She would definitely be able to live a good life. Sangro was conflicted for the entire day. The greedy thoughts in her heart were like a restless beast, unable to be controlled. Moreover, she did not want to control it because in reality, she already had no way to live. If the matter was exposed, it would only be death. Rather than marrying that crazy and ugly man and being tortured to death, it would not be a loss to have a quick death. If things went well, then she would not have to worry about the rest of her life. Weighing the pros and cons, the crazy idea in her heart became more and more intense. Finally, Sangro quietly got up and wrapped up Sang Yan's 2 sets of clothes and 2 pairs of good shoes that were hanging outside. Along with the gold and silver, she took everything and ran away from home in the middle of the night. When the family found out the next day, Sangro had already left without a trace. At first, Lily only thought that she had gone up the mountain to chop firewood, so she didn't pay much attention to it. She cursed a few times. "Don't you know how to use fire to wash your face?" and then ordered the concubine to start a fire. Later, when Ryo Kuwabara woke up and went to the outhouse, He found that the soil where he buried the gold and silver was a little loose. It was obvious that someone had moved it. His heart tightened and he hurriedly dug it up with a shovel. When he looked, there was nothing left. Rio Kuwabara screamed and immediately fainted on the ground with a pale face. When he woke up, he intermittently told them what had happened. When they connected it with the fact that Sangro was missing, the family became anxious and hurriedly asked around for Sangro's whereabouts. How could they still find out? Only then did they confirm that Sangro had really run away. Rio Kuwabara was so angry that he cursed loudly. At that time, he asked people to look for Sangro. However, half a day had already passed and there was no sign of Sangro. 3 days later, there was still no sign of Sangro. The family finally gave up and had to admit the truth. That wretched girl had secretly run away with the money. Rio Kuwabara was so distressed that his liver and intestines were throbbing in pain. He vented his anger on Lee and scolded her for being vicious. He said that if she hadn't wanted to marry Sangro to that widower, who was over 50 years old, this wouldn't have happened. He grabbed onto Lee and asked her to compensate him for the money. Although he couldn't touch the money, it was still his family's money. Lee was also distressed. When she heard Rio Kuwabara put all the blame on her, she became angry. She didn't want to be outdone and scolded him. She scolded him for reaping what he sowed, and that he deserved it. If he hadn't hidden the money in such an inconspicuous place, if he had locked it in the cupboard in the room, this wouldn't have happened. The two of them quarreled about this matter until the sky turned upside down, and even chickens and dogs couldn't rest in peace. Rio Kuwabara loved to amass money all his life. Now that his life's fortune was gone, this blow was undoubtedly fatal to him. Rio Kuwabara suddenly seemed to have aged 10 years. His face was haggard and his expression was absent-minded. White hair also grew on his temples. He fell ill and couldn't stay. Lee panicked and hurriedly asked a doctor for medicine. Although she had some private savings, she couldn't bear to use it at this time. She went to Sang Hong's house and cried. In the end, Sang Hong and Fong Shi couldn't just ignore it, so they paid for a doctor to fill the prescription. But Rio Kuwabara's illness was a psychological problem. How could it be cured? His condition continued to worsen day by day. In just a month's time, he had lost so much weight that he couldn't even get out of bed. When the doctor came for the last time, he secretly told Lee to prepare for his funeral. Looking at the situation, he wouldn't last more than 3 to 4 months. Lee felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She couldn't recover for a long time. But now that things had come to this, what was the use of being sad? She thought about how her daughter hadn't been married yet. Once Rio Kuwabara passed away, her daughter would have to mourn for 3 years. At that time, she would be almost 20 years old. Who would want her? She thought about it again. With her daughter's soft personality, she would be bullied by her mother-in-law and sisters-in-law no matter who she married into. Moreover, it seemed impossible to expect her to be able to control her husband. After thinking about it, Lee decided to find a son-in-law for her. Anyway, she didn't have a son. Her husband was about to die. She didn't plan to adopt a son. She wanted to find a son-in-law. With her watching over her, it was better than letting her get married. After making up her mind, Lee hid Rio Kuwabara's illness from the outside world. She hurriedly found a matchmaker to talk about Sang Yan's marriage. She said that she wanted to give Rio Kuwabara a try. She only wanted the man to be honest, good-looking, hard-working and willing to work. As long as he married into the family, everything in the family would be his in the future. In the countryside, there were many brothers but few fields. There were many poor families. The matchmaker quickly found a suitable person and asked Lee to look at him. After seeing him, Lee inquired about the situation and nodded with satisfaction. The process of marrying into the family was simple. It saved a lot of tedious things. Lee didn't have the ability to make a big deal of it. She only planned to arrange a few banquets and pick a few days for him to visit. Therefore, she asked Sang Hong to send a letter to Sang Won to invite Sang Won to come back for the wedding banquet. Of course, she was more concerned about Sang Won's gift. In the past, she asked Sang Won to give Sang Yin a large amount of dowry. But now, Sang Yin wasn't getting married but was looking for a son-in-law. In the future, she would still live here. Li didn't dare to ask too much from Sangwon. Otherwise, how could Fong let it go? Now that there was no man in charge of her family, her relationship with Sang Hong and Fong had become even more distant. How could she dare to provoke them? When Sangwon and Shifengju came back and heard about this, Sangwon couldn't help but sigh. She didn't expect Sang Ro to be so bold. She was a country girl who had never left home before. She was afraid that it wasn't a good thing for her to bring so much money on the road. Second uncle, who had been greedy for money all his life, had ended up like this. She didn't know if it was God's will. Sangwon and Shifengju reluctantly went to Ryo Kuwabira's house to sit for a while. When Ryo Kuwabira heard that Shifengju had come, if it was in the past, he definitely wouldn't let go of Shifengju. Perhaps he also wanted to pester Shifengju to help him fill the hole in his family's finances. But he had just been chased out of the house for embezzlement. How could he have the face to see Shifengju? When he heard that Shifengju had come, he was so scared that he became even sicker. He didn't even dare to see Shifengju's face. On the other hand, Li held Sangwon's hand and cried, "What should I do? Why am I so unlucky?" After saying these words, Sangwon was finally relieved. She stood up and bid farewell. She left 200 taels of silver, a pair of gold jewelry, and 2 pieces of brocade for Sang Yen to add to her dowry. Li didn't dare to say it out loud, but in her heart, she thought it was too little. In the end, she muttered to herself for a while. Sangwon naturally saw the slight change in her expression at that time, but she pretended not to see it. After drinking this not-so-lively wedding wine, Sangwon and Shifengju bid farewell and returned to Qingzhou. Thinking about the mess in Qingzhou, Sangwon felt somewhat upset. She wished she could stay for a few more days, but it was inconvenient for her to say it. She reluctantly bid farewell to her sister-in-law Fong. Sure enough, after returning home for 2 or 3 days, Wang directly placed a bright red invitation in front of her and Shifengju, asking them to choose a good day. Sangwon's expression immediately changed, but she still remained silent. Shifengju was also very unhappy, so he let Sangwon return to Ning Garden first. Sangwon glanced at him, bowed to Wang and left. Wang didn't care about her, and only said to her son with a cold face, "This matter can't be delayed any longer. I've doted on Fong for so many years and watched you grow up. I know very well what kind of girl she is, and I have nothing to say about you. You can't let her down." Shifengju knew that it was impossible to reason with his mother, and it was difficult to force her. He was even more annoyed that Gu Fangzi didn't know what was good for her, and insisted on pestering him. He said, "In a few days I'll be going to the capital. I'm afraid I won't be able to come back for more than 2 months. I'm afraid this matter can't be done this year. Mother, since cousin is willing to wait, there's no need to be in a hurry, right? It's almost the end of the year. You also know that I have a lot of things on my hands, so how can I care about other things?" Since she wanted to waste time, then let's waste time. Let's see who can last longer. Trying to reason with her seemed to be an impossible task. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" Wang was so angry that she couldn't speak. Shifengju looked behind the partition and said indifferently, "There are no outsiders here, so why does cousin need to hide? Come out and talk." Gu Fangzi, who was behind the partition, was embarrassed. She could only bow her head and come out. She bowed towards him and softly called out, "Eldest cousin." Shifengju looked at her with a mocking expression and said indifferently, "I don't have time right now. Let's talk about this matter after the new year. What does cousin think?" He then followed up, "Cousin can't wait any longer, right?" Gu Fangzi's face paled. She bit her lip and looked at Shifengju, not knowing what to do. Her hands, which were hanging by her sides, were digging into her palms until they were red and swollen. She never thought that he wouldn't give her any face in front of others. He really didn't give her any face at all. He didn't give her any face at all. Since when had he become so heartless? Sangwon, it was all because of Sangwon. Chapter 291. Fengju. Wang glared at him with dissatisfaction. "How can you say that? Fong is just a girl. How can she not feel embarrassed to answer your question?" Mother, there are no outsiders here. What's there to be embarrassed about? You're looking down on Cousin Fengju, right? If Cousin Fengju has no objections, then this matter is settled. I'll listen to Big Cousin Fengju. The Shi family's business is naturally more important than some trivial matters such as love. Feng, doesn't dare to ruin the bigger picture because of my personal matters. Big Cousin Fengju, please do what you should do. Feng is fine. No matter how long it takes, Feng can wait. Gu Fengzi's tears welled up in her eyes as she forced a smile. Wang felt both heartache and anger when she saw that. She glared at Shi Fengju without saying a word. Mother, since Cousin Fengju has said so, then you don't have to worry about this matter anymore. Just wait. Shi Fengju listened to her half-demonstration of her feelings and felt even more annoyed. She's really going to drag it out with me. After Shi Fengju finished speaking, he did not even look at Gu Fengzi as he cupped his hands towards Wang and left. Wang opened her mouth to speak, but in the end, it turned into a sigh. You lass, why are you so silly? Wang turned around and said. Aunt. Gu Fengzi forced a smile and said. I'm really fine. I don't know why Big Cousin Fengju is so prejudiced against me. But I don't want him to be even more prejudiced against me. Ai. Wang sighed again after hearing that. Fenger, you're so kind. How can I be at ease? If I'm no longer around in the future, who will be able to protect you? Aunt. Gu Fengzi's heart skipped a beat, and a chill ran down her spine. Her aunt was right. If she wasn't around in the future, what would she do? Therefore, she had to take advantage of the fact that her aunt still had some feelings for her to settle this matter quickly. Otherwise, if that day came, would she still have a way to live? So you must live a long life. Gu Fengzi came behind Wang with a smile and gently hammered her back. Auntie, you will definitely live a long and healthy life. I will pray for you every day. You only know how to make your aunt happy. Wang laughed. Shi Fengju returned to Ning Garden. Sangwon was sitting in the warm room, absent-mindedly fiddling with a teacup. When she heard him lift the curtain and enter, she forced a smile and put down the teacup. You're back. Shi Fengju sat beside her, held her hand and said, It will be Chongyang in a few days. After Chongyang, let's go to the capital. Sangwon's hand trembled slightly. She looked at him with a complicated expression. She knew that he was making excuses for her, but how many times could he use such a trick? Even if he used it, it would only make Wang hate her even more. Wan Yang, Shi Fengju said gently. My mother won't listen to me. There's no point in arguing with her. Since they want to do things their own way, then let them be. This household can't tolerate us, so we'll just avoid them. Previously in Handan, I even said that I would bring you to the capital. I didn't think that I would have the chance so soon. The capital is very lively. There are many new things and different sceneries. When the time comes, I'll bring you to see them one by one. We'll just come back when it's almost the new year. Fengju. Sangwon's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She gently leaned on him and smiled bitterly. But if that's the case, wouldn't our relationship with mother be? Fengju, can you really be at ease? Sure, Fengju said. I can compromise on other matters, but not on this matter. But she is my mother, so I can't disobey her. This is for the best. Anyway, she's happy in the household, so there's nothing for me to worry about. Sure, Fengju was a little annoyed and sour. If his mother was worried about Gu Fengzi and couldn't rest in peace, then it could be seen that in her heart, her biological son was not comparable to a niece who was good at scheming. If that was the case, then there was nothing for him to worry about. Pack your things properly these few days, so that you don't have to leave in a hurry. Shi Fengju chuckled and lowered his head to kiss her forehead gently. And I'll listen to you. Sangwon nodded and smiled. In this household, she felt more and more unnatural. If she could leave for a while, she would be free for a while. In any case, she had earned her life, so she did not suffer any losses. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at Chongyang. As usual, the three branches of the household had a meal together. The atmosphere today was exceptionally harmonious. Third Old Master Shi had received a letter from his previous superior. It was said that there was a high possibility that he could be promoted in the coming spring. This time, he would be in the Central Plains and most likely in Jiangnan. There was no need for him to go to Sichuan, which was thousands of miles away. Since the rumor was most likely in Jiangnan, then the rest would depend on who was more capable, and who was more willing to spend their hard-earned capital to compete for the position. From the looks of it, Third Old Master sure still had a 70 to 80% chance of success. This was a good thing for the entire Shi family. It would be even better if he could be promoted to a position in Jiangnan. With him in Jiangnan and Sang Yufei in Beijing, it would be very convenient for him to inquire about the market. The whole family was in a joyous mood as they enjoyed their meal. Unexpectedly, Zhou Jingyi suddenly bent over and covered her mouth to vomit. Shi Fengming was in a good mood. No matter how much he loved and doted on his wife, he could not get enough of her. When he saw her, he turned pale with fright and patted her back gently, asking with concern, "What's wrong? Did you eat something that is not to your liking? Or are you feeling unwell?" He then instructed the servants to pour some hot tea, and take out a spittoon before asking with a sullen face, "Which chef made tonight's dishes? Is there something fishy going on?" Second Old Mistress sure was unhappy to see her son being so busy for her daughter-in-law, humbly serving her. She cleared her throat and reprimanded Shi Fengming. "Child, what nonsense are you spouting? The chefs in our household are all experienced for 20 to 30 years. How could they make mistakes when they are used to cooking? Don't speak without thinking. I say, daughter-in-law, if you're feeling unwell, you should go back and rest. Today, daughter-in-law is becoming more and more delicate. I didn't see her like this in the past." "Mother." Shi Fengming looked at her unhappily. "Look at Jingyi's pale face. She must be feeling very uncomfortable, and you're still scolding her like that." Second Old Mistress sure was so angry that she complained to her two sisters-in-law. "Look, I can't even say a word. Raising this son of mine is really a waste. He'll become someone else's when he grows up." Wang was deeply touched. She sighed softly and said, "Sister-in-law, don't say that. Fengming is a good child." Third Old Mistress sure was always in high spirits when it came to happy events. When something good happened to her, she was extremely willing to use the greatest kindness to guess the good news of others. Her eyes lit up and she quickly said, "Second niece-in-law looks like she's pregnant." "Pregnant?" Everyone at the table was stunned. It was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Amidst the silence, Zhou Jingyi's face flushed red. "Really?" Shi Fengming was overjoyed. He beamed with joy and said, Yes, it must be. Third aunt must be right. I'm going to be a father." "Husband." Zhou Jingyi saw him laughing foolishly and quickly called out softly. Her heart was filled with sweetness and uneasiness. If she really had a child, it would naturally be a joyous occasion. If the news was false, it would be an empty joy and a disappointment. Everyone could not help but laugh when they saw Shi Fengming like this. They stopped eating and quickly called for a doctor. Second Old Mistress Shi's attention was completely attracted by her grandson. She did not care about being angry at Shi Fengming and jealous of Zhou Jingyi. She kept asking Zhou Jingyi if there was anything unusual recently. Was there anything different? Wait a minute. Zhou Jingyi was in a difficult position and could only reply vaguely. Tonight was the first time she had a reaction. She really did not feel anything wrong these few days. Every night, she would be intimate with her husband. If her mother-in-law knew about this, she would definitely be scolded. Third Old Mistress Shi saw Zhou Jingyi's embarrassment and smiled at Second Old Mistress Shi. "Second sister-in-law, you must be too happy. Even if second niece-in-law is pregnant, it's only been a month. How big of a reaction can there be? Let's wait for the doctor to come and see." Second Old Mistress Shi found it funny. "Isn't that so? I'm really confused." Amidst the lively atmosphere around the table, Sangwon's smile seemed a little forced. Looking at the foolishly happy Shi Fengming and the shy Zhou Jingyi, Sangwon's heart was filled with an indescribable bitterness. Shi Fengju noticed it, and held her hand under the table. He squeezed it gently and whispered to her, "Wan Yang, we will have a child. Moreover, it's not certain if she's pregnant or not." Sangwon heard the last sentence and gestured for him to keep quiet. She glared at him and whispered, "Don't talk nonsense." Shi Fengju smiled and held her hand even tighter. Not long after, the doctor arrived and everyone waited anxiously for the diagnosis results. The doctor in the partition carefully checked her pulse and asked if her period came on time. Did she feel stuffy in her chest? After waiting for his answer, he came out and smiled at everyone. It's only been a month and the pregnancy pulse isn't obvious yet. However, it shouldn't be wrong. After half a month and 20 days, it will be confirmed. Then she's really pregnant. Second old mistress sure was overjoyed. The doctor smiled awkwardly. I can't be sure about this, but it's highly possible. Then it's true. It's just that the pregnancy is still early. Second sister-in-law, second uncle, congratulations. Third old mistress sure smiled. Hee hee, thank you, thank you. Second old mistress sure and second lord sure were overjoyed. They quickly asked the servants to reward the doctor generously and sent him out politely. All the servant girls and old women also came forward to congratulate them, which made the people of the second branch beam with joy. Father, mother, I'll bring Jingyi back first. Shi Fengming was grinning from ear to ear as he supported his wife like she was a rare treasure. Go go. Second old mistress sure smiled. I'll ask the kitchen to prepare some light porridge and send it over. Don't tire her out these few days, and let her rest well. Also, don't quarrel with her and make her angry. Jingyi, if you want to eat anything, just ask someone to inform mother. Bring 2 more people with you whenever you go out, and be careful. Chapter 292. Mother, I know. Shi Fengming replied unhappily. Bicker with her? Make her angry? What a joke. Was he that kind of person? He wished he could dote on her to the bone and dig out his heart to give it to her. How could he bear to make her unhappy? Zhou Jingyi also hurriedly agreed with a smile. As her husband carefully helped her out, she sighed inwardly. This was the difference between them. With the little ancestor in her stomach, it was as if she had the whole world. No one would say no to her when she walked around this residence. Jingyi, you're so nice. You're pregnant with a son. I'm going to be a father. Shi Fengming suddenly felt his entire heart soften. The excitement and joy in his heart could not be vented. He could not stop smiling. Zhou Jingyi's hand gently landed on her flat stomach. She smiled and said, I really didn't expect that I already have a baby here. Husband, I really didn't dare to think that I would have such a happy day. Husband, you're so nice to me. With a child, her life would be complete, and she would have no more regrets. I'll treat you even better in the future. Let's have 7 or 8 children. Shi Fengming smiled and kissed her cheek. Zhou Jingyi felt sweet and amused. Then how long do I have to give birth? Everything is so dirty that I have to give birth to a child for you. Shi Fengming thought for a while and smiled. That's true. Then won't you even have time to accompany me? Then let's just have 2 or 3 children. Zhou Jingyi smiled sweetly. It'll be great to have a son and a daughter. My wife's stomach is so capable. She definitely will. Shi Fengming smiled proudly and sighed. Hee hee, I really didn't expect that one day I'll be better than Big Brother in some matters. I'm going to be a father before Big Brother. Zhou Jingyi sighed softly and said softly, Sister-in-law is worried about this matter. You must not say this in front of Big Brother. It's also quite difficult for Big Brother and sister-in-law. These days, Zhou Jingyi had been talking to Sangwan from time to time. She knew a little about Gu Fangzi. If Sangwan was pregnant, she would be able to speak more firmly. Unfortunately, she was not pregnant even after being married for so long. Wang wanted Shi Fengju to marry Gu Fangzi as a co-wife. She had no reason to object at all. If she said anything more, she would be seen as a jealous woman. Shi Fengming saw that her eyebrows were slightly furrowed and her voice carried a hint of worry. He hurriedly smiled and said, I was just casually saying that. How would I dare to show off in front of Big Brother? He's a narrow-minded person and will take revenge on me. Who knows what he'll do to me later on? You just need to take good care of yourself. You don't have to worry about Big Brother and Big Sister-in-law. In all my life, the only thing that Big Brother didn't want to do was to marry Big Sister-in-law. He didn't want to, and Big Aunt couldn't do anything about it. Sister-in-law looks gentle, but she has her own ideas. Don't worry about them. Hearing his words, Zhou Jingyi smiled. Her heart warmed and she nodded. While the two of them were being affectionate, Wang's face suddenly became gloomy. She didn't wait for Shi Fengjiu and Sangwon to say anything. She waved her hand and told them to leave. Sangwon also didn't feel good, but this kind of thing couldn't be forced. She couldn't explain even if she wanted to, so she simply pretended to be deaf and mute. She and Shi Fengjiu obediently left. Wang became angrier when she saw this. She complained to Nanny Jiang indignantly. She was so angry that she couldn't sleep the whole night. 2 days after Chongyang, Shi Fengjiu was about to take Sangwon out. Who knew that at this moment, Wang would suddenly fall ill? She had caught a cold, and the evil energy had invaded her body. Coupled with her depressed mood, she got up dispiritedly. Lying on the bed, she was too lazy to move. Her face was haggard and she couldn't stop coughing. The bedroom was filled with the strong smell of medicine. At this moment, Sangwon naturally couldn't go out anymore. She could only stay behind to serve the medicine. Shi Fengjiu also wanted to stay, but Wang insisted that Sangwon alone was enough. She didn't want him to affect the Shi family's business because of small matters. There were many people in the household taking care of them. There were also good doctors and good herbs, so he didn't have to worry. Shi Fengjiu wanted to decline again, but Wang's face changed. She snorted and said in a neutral tone, "Why? Don't tell me you're not worried about my health, but that I'll bully your wife? Don't worry. She's our Shi family's eldest daughter-in-law. What can I do to her?" Since she had said so, how could Shi Fengjiu say anything else? He could only smile and deny it. Leaving his wife in the household, he went on his way alone. Wang's illness was actually 30% illness, 20% pretense, and 50% in a fit of pique. After Shi Fengjiu left, Sangwon and Gu Fengzi took care of her every day. She originally thought that her illness would be cured soon. Who knew that after a few days, not only did it not get better, it got worse. Wang lived like a princess and was also an old woman. She suddenly lost her appetite and couldn't eat anything. She looked even more haggard. A few days ago, she could still get out of bed and walk around. Now, she was even too lazy to get out of bed. This time, everyone in the household was alarmed. Everyone discussed and quickly sent a letter to Shi Fengjiu to come back. However, Wang insisted that it was only a minor illness, and that she would be fine after resting for a while. Everyone saw that her words were still energetic, and she insisted on it, so they could only let her be. One day, the teacher of the Plum Blossom Temple came to collect money for incense and oil. When she heard that Wang was ill, she was shocked and hurried to the bed to accompany her for a while. Wang believed in this, and she believed it even more when she was ill. Not only did she double the amount of money, she also asked the teacher to copy a few more scriptures for her, and recite a few more scriptures in front of Buddha and Bodhisattva. The teacher agreed readily and said that she would open her heaven's eye to help Wang see if she had offended any ghosts or deities. She lit the incense and waved her hand to draw some kind of talisman in the air above Wang's head and body. Her mouth started to chant. She didn't know if it was a psychological effect or if it really worked, but after her torment, Wang felt much better. The depression that had been lingering in her chest seemed to have dissipated a lot. She felt a lot more relaxed. Wang was overjoyed and thanked the teacher again and again. She hurriedly asked if she had offended anyone. The teacher sighed and wanted to say something but stopped. Under Wang's repeated questioning, she nodded and sighed. "To be honest, there is something dirty on your body. However, my mana is limited and I can't get rid of it completely. I'm afraid." When Wang Shi heard this, she became anxious. She thought to herself that it was just a small cold. Previously, she knew that it wouldn't be a big deal. Who knew that it would get worse day by day? There was no cure for it. It turned out that it was the work of something dirty. No wonder. "Teacher, you are the most compassionate. You must save me," Wang said quickly. "No matter how much money it is, as long as you ask, I can afford it." Gu Fengzi, who was serving at the side, also hurriedly nodded and said, "Yes, teacher. Just say it. We can definitely do it." Seeing this, Sangwon also expressed her intention. Seeing this, the teacher nodded and sighed. "It's rare that all of you are so considerate. I have been friends with Madam for so many years. I know that Madam has always been sincere in worshipping Buddha. However, this is not because of money. I just saw that my family members went to Mount Tai's Blue Cloud Progenitor Temple to ask for a protective talisman and a bag of incense ashes from the incense burner in front of Blue Cloud Progenitor. When I get it back, I will do the ritual to resolve this disaster. Mount Tai, Blue Cloud Progenitor Temple, so far away. Wang could not help but frown and hesitate for a moment. Yes. The teacher smiled and said, otherwise how can it be called sincerity? In fact, 10 days is enough for a round trip. If it's rushed, it will only take 7 or 8 days. It's not that far. While Wang Shi was still hesitating, Gu Fangzi knelt down and said with tears in her eyes, Aunt Wang's kindness to Fang is as heavy as a mountain. Fang has always been alone. Everything that Fang eats, wears, and uses belongs to Aunt Wang. Only this body can repay Aunt Wang. Aunt, let me go to Mount Tai's Blue Cloud Progenitor Temple. I will set off today. I will come back early so that my aunt won't suffer. Seeing Aunt like this, Fanger's heart also tightened. Get up quickly. Nanny Jiang Wan Yang, help Fang up quickly. Wang leaned over and raised her hand. She sighed and praised Gu Fangzi. You are so considerate. Alas, my love for you is not in vain. But you are an unmarried girl. How can I be at ease when you go on such a long journey? No. This is definitely not possible. Don't mention it again. Aunt, just let Fang go. As long as you can get better soon, this journey is nothing. Besides, don't you have maids and servants accompanying you? It's okay. Gu Fangzi was still begging with sincerity. Wang felt even more pity for her, but she would not agree no matter what. Sangwon stepped forward with a smile. Mother, why don't you let your daughter-in-law go? Your daughter-in-law will definitely go early and come back early, so that mother can get better soon. Wang's eyes twitched, but she remained silent. Gu Fangzi was unwilling and insisted on going herself. She asked Sangwon not to fight with her. When the teacher saw this, she coughed and said with a smile, Madam, you're really lucky. She has such a filial daughter-in-law and such a considerate niece. But in this nun's opinion, it is more appropriate for young mistress to go. After all, young mistress is Madam's daughter-in-law. Miss Gu grew up by Madam's side, and is more familiar with Madam's habits and preferences. Wouldn't it be better for her to stay and take care of Madam? Wang looked at Sangwon when she heard this. Sangwon said, Mother, the nun is right. Just let your daughter-in-law go. Your daughter-in-law will go back and pack up. I will ask someone to prepare a carriage and leave. I won't make any mistakes. Since Gu Fangzi said that they would leave today, Sangwon naturally could not say that they would leave tomorrow. Then you must be careful along the way. Bring along more reliable people. You don't have to rush. Safety is more important. Wang thought for a while and finally nodded. Thinking that Sangwon would go so far alone, Wang was still worried. Hearing those words, Gu Fangzi could not help but clench her fists tightly as she said worriedly, That's right, Sister Fangzi. Sister Fangzi must be careful along the way. Don't tire yourself out, or else Aunt Wang will feel uneasy. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.